Hello, everyone. We're just getting everyone situated. If you are a panelist tonight, AKA you're presenting, please feel free to raise your hand so we can promote you to a panelist. Getting our interpreters situated. Okay, is there anyone else that needs to be promoted as panelist? If not, we'll go ahead and move forward. Got one more. Okay, final call for any other folks presenting or speaking at tonight's meeting to use the raise their hand function on the Zoom. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Today is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. It is 7:06 p.m. We are holding our ANC 5D public meeting, and a friendly reminder to the attendees today. Any questions that you might have, please use the Q&A feature on today's Zoom. We'll be answering questions directly in the Q&A function, so please ensure to use that to ask any questions that you may have. The chat is available to drop in contact information, quick exchanges of communication between individuals, but we will not be pulling questions from the chat. So please ensure to use both those different features for those different functions. Okay. Gallery view. Okay, just some last minute tech. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with roll call. 5D01.
Present.
5D02 is myself, I'm present. 5D03.
Present.
5D04.
Present.
5D05. That's Commissioner Moore, and she'll be joining us. 5D06. Commissioner Hoffman is absent today. And 5D07.
Present.
Perfect. So we have a quorum. And moving forward, for those that are unaware, we do have our agenda available as we typically do through our website and online. So feel free to follow us through today's agenda. We do have a fair amount of presentations and voting actions today. So apologies for the length of time for today's meeting, but hey, it's the last one before our summer break. So let's make use of this time today. I'd like to move forward and adopt the agenda. Commissioners, are there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda that need to be addressed? I hear none are needed. Okay, so I I move to accept the agenda as presented. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the ayes have it. Moving forward, the adoption of the minutes. So for those that have access to the agenda, we have been sharing the minutes on our agenda via web link. You can easily access the minutes from May on tonight's agenda. I moved, and they have been posted in advance, just like the agenda 7 days in advance, as we always do. Commissioners, are there any needed changes or corrections to the minutes of May? I hear there being none. Okay. Commissioner Rhodes, as our secretary, can you make a motion, please?
Yes, I move to adopt May's meeting minutes as shared. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. Second.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Okay, so moving forward, we adopted the minutes for May. Thank you, Commissioner Rhodes. Treasurer's report. Commissioner Cobb, can we get the monthly report for today's meeting?
All right, thank you, Commissioner. For the month of May, we had an opening balance of $49,748.31. We had expenditures of $3,292.65, all of which were recurring office expenses. And that gave us a closing balance for the month of May of $46,455.66.
Perfect. Commissioners, are there any questions with today's report from the treasurer? Okay, being that there isn't, thank you, Commissioner Cobb, for that report. We'll move forward with standing presentations. So as we did our last month's meeting, we've been changing it up a little bit so you guys can be a little more informed of what's happening on your block particularly. So we'll be starting with the commissioners' reports. So the first commissioners' report that we'll be starting with today is from Ivy City and Union Market 5D01.
Yes. Right now, we are still battling with overdoses. During the Ward 5 engagement meeting, I was able to order some fentanyl test strips, and we will be still getting our hands on the Narcan, and we're going to work on having Narcan training in Ivy City, Trinidad, soon and very soon. I also have posters and how to use these items. If anyone needs any of them, just contact me, 5D01@anc.dc.gov. We're also battling illegal dumping. We're having a lot of tires dumped in our community. We have been getting them picked up, but as soon as we get them picked up, they're being dumped once again. So if anyone have any information on who could be dumping tires in Ivy City, please let us know. We will be working on getting cameras. Also, we are working on the environmental issues, such as the chemical plant and the emissions from polluting industries and New York Avenue traffic. That's ongoing, and hopefully by our next meeting in September, we'll have additional information that we can give you on that. Also, the basketball court, there's a crack in the basketball court at Cromell. DGS will be repairing it, so the basketball courts will be closed for a couple of weeks. I haven't gotten a date yet, but it'll be closed for a couple of weeks for repair. And they also will be installing a shade canopy over top of the playground. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. For 5D02, Northern Trinidad Mount Olivet area, currently we're working on some missed street sweepings on some of our blocks. This past week, we had street sweeping completed on some blocks that haven't had it in about 4 to 6 weeks. just friendly reminder to those. If you are not moving your vehicle, DPW is enforcing and are ticketing vehicles that are not being moved. So some of these blocks that are missing street sweeping, that's the first tactic that they use to get cars to move so they can get the street sweepers in. If you happen to know that your block has been missing street sweeping, please contact me so I can notify DPW. They have been alerted about this. They have heard me plenty of times on this issue. So please make sure to reach out if you know that your block or your area has not had any street sweeping. We had issues with the removal of litter cans that are to be replaced by DPW at the beginning of the new fiscal year with new litter cans. So Trinidad is actually in the top of the list after advocating for that through the mayor's office and DPW. So that's some good news for us. As of right now, the only updates that I have for our area is just that we'll be hosting our first Mount Olivet Civic Association meeting on Friday, July 1st. This will be at Mr. Salim's boxing gym right on Mount Olivet. And just so you're also aware, some of you may not, some of you have only seen me through Zoom, but some of you might also see me in person because we'll be canvassing the rest of this month, just handing out newsletters and updates on the community. So if you have a door and you don't share it with 4 other units, I might be knocking on it and passing out some info on what's going on this summer. So be on the lookout for that. And our biggest thing, since we have a big break this summer, I'll just announce our biggest thing in planning, not that it's official because permits can take a while, in planning is Saturday, August 27th. We're trying to bring back Trinidad Day. So please be on the lookout for this information. If you want to join in the conversations and in the meetings, please reach out. We appreciate any support. 5D03.
That's me. Hi, Latoya Moore. I'm glad I see Nokomis on the phone. Hi, Nokomis. Nokomis and I have been working with the space up at the top of 19th and L. We finally got an agency that is responsible for that space. We also got a point of contact. So thank you so much for your hard work on that. So right now we're actually finalizing what they can transition the space to. So that was good news, a good win for us this week. The second thing is, we're about 30 days out from the remaining time for our safety assessments for our speed bumps in the single member district. That I put that ticket in back in April, yet again, after we've been rejected twice, but I did it again. I guess with 3 strikes, you're out, right? So I'm doing it again, and we have 130 days. So at the end of July, we should have some kind of analysis or finalization of if they're going to give us speed bumps or at least some additional stop signs, something to alleviate this speeding that's done in our single member district over here in 5D03 Carver Langston. And just to piggyback on Cesar Guzman, also please continue to move your cars on street cleaning day so that the street sweepers are able to come through, because we don't want to give them any excuse for not doing their jobs. And that's what they'll say, that there's cars there or 1 to 2 cars there and they couldn't come on our street. So please be mindful to just move your car on street cleaning days so we can get that done and executed appropriately. And that's all I have.
I second that. 5D04.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Commissioner Bernice Blacknell for 5D04. I just wanted to give an update that they are working on Spingon, inside of Spingon now. Finally, it's been a long wait, but it's being taken care of. So please be patient. The contractors are up in there now. They trying to organize a hazmat team to go in there because it is very, very bad up in there. And also I want to piggyback to, please move your car. I had a complaint from a resident in reference to the car being towed because of street cleaning. The signs are up. Please move your car. Also on August the 20th, It will be Langston Day. I hope the date will not change, but I know as of August the 20th, it's Langston Day. And also, I update with Mr. Baker because I still need speed humps down here where I live at going around the school. Cars are steady speeding and everything, and it's getting very bad. Even though school is just about to be out, I still need the speed humps down here going around the school. And that's my report for 5D04.
Thank you, Commissioner. 5D05. Oh, and again, Commissioner Moore will be joining us shortly. 5D06, and that is Commissioner Hoffman. He's absent. 5D07.
Okay, just a few quick things. First of all, again, I also want to reiterate, please move your car for street sweeping. I've seen ticketing and I've seen towing, and sometimes they'll just entirely skip the block if too much of the curb space is taken up with illegally parked cars. So please just move your car. I know it can be frustrating, but it's just for 2 hours a week. Second, as far as traffic calming on Trinidad Avenue and Montello Avenue, about a couple of weeks ago, DDOT released new guidance on what they call vertical safety or traffic calming measures, which are things like speed bumps, raised crosswalks, etc. And the guidance really overall expands when that kind of infrastructure can go in. So that kind of has given us an ability to renew our calls for more traffic calming on those two streets. And we're continuing to apply pressure. Finally, I know I've mentioned the demolition of the Pepco substation before, and I just bring it up now because we're going to have a presentation about that later. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Moving forward with the agenda, the next portion is Public Safety Report. Is anyone from the 5th District here? Oh, hey, Lieutenant, how are you? Can you, is your video working? So Lieutenant Hakir, it says that your audio is connected, your video is connected, but we don't see or hear you. Let's see. Lieutenant, we'll come right back to you as you're resetting up your Zoom. Nokomis Hunter, Mr. Hunter, no, oh, there you are. Can we move to you as we wait for Lieutenant Hakir to get situated again?
Sure, yes, you can. How you doing, everybody? Again, thank you for having me on. Hope your week has been lovely. Again, my name is Nokomis Hunter. I'm the Ward 5 liaison from the mayor's office. So for like anyone that, you know, would like to share any concerns or, you know, trying to get in contact with any, you know, government entities or agencies, and I would serve as your point of contact, you know, try to, you know, connect you to those agencies or, you know, help you resolve any assistance that you may have, any concern that you may have. So I would like to start off with giving you guys an update on the initiative that the mayor has announced it last week on Thursday. The mayor herself and DENPAD, which is the deputy mayor for planning and economic development, had kicked off the Black home ownership strike force by announcing the members who will serve on the committees and work to identify actionable recommendations to increase and support home ownership for Black residents of DC. So the announcement had took place in on the borderline of Ward 4 and Ward 5, which is the Ridge Park place. So on this land, it would be 183 unit housing community of townhome, apartment, and retail located at the intersection of Ridge Road and South Dakota Avenue, northeast in the Fort Totten community. So the strike force is made up of government and public expert in housing and financial counseling, lending and underwriting. You have real estate development and services, as well as representatives from the faith-based senior immigrant and LGBTQ community, and advocates and representatives that address social and racial equity. So the chart also includes providing recommendations for users a $10 million Black home ownership fund proposed in the Mayor Bowser Fair Shop budget, and creating a goal for increasing the number of Black home ownership in DC by 2030. So also want to let you guys know that for those that may be interested in this program, or that would like to keep up with this initiative, I encourage you to go to blackhome.dc.gov. Also, if you have like any providing feedback or suggestion, I also encourage you to you can email home ownership at dc.gov. Also, after announcing the member of this strike force, the Mayor Bowser also cut the ribbon at the Ridge Park Place, which is a mixed-use development that will deliver a variety of housing options, rental and home ownership, for a range of income level and family size across the district. Phase 1 of the development includes 90 townhomes, 5 of which are designed as affordable, offering a 2 to 3 and 4 bedroom layout. Phase 2 of the project will be an affordable senior apartment community. The oversight developed by EYA is designed to fit seamlessly into the surrounding community and providing residents and visitors with neighborhood scale building and welcoming street designs with walkways and green space. Again, for those that that is interested, you can go to the link or the website that I just provided, blackhome.dc.gov, or email homeownership.dc.gov if you have like any concerns or suggestions that you would like to share. Also, you can go to frontdoor.dc.gov for other resources here in the district as well that support home ownership. Do you have any interest? Moving on, I would like to announce that the mayor and DPR has announced a series of neighborhood party each Friday this summer at the outdoor pool and recreation center across the district. So both in this initiative called Late Night Hype, and it will be taking place at the DPR Recreation Center. So it will provide, this initiative will provide residents of all ages a fun and safe recreational opportunity throughout the summer of 2022. The first week study had begun last Friday on the 10th at Ridge Road Pool from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So this event will take place all over the district on different dates. So to point out the next Late Night Hype event, which will be taking place on the 17th of this month at the Kennedy Recreation Center, which is at 1401 7th Street Northwest. For Ward 5, we actually have we actually have an event there on August the 12th at Turkey Ticket, which is 1100 Michigan Avenue Northeast. Again, you can feel free to go to dc.gov to check up for the schedule of all the events that they will be having all over the city. Also, last week, the mayor had kicked off DC Value Week, and highlighted how residents can help to keep the community safe while taking part in a exciting event that represents DC value. Her focus is on trying to to encourage residents to visit alert.dc.gov and sign up to receive real-time alert, ranging from street closure to public safety notification. The resident can follow at Alert DC on Twitter. Residents and visitors are, reminded that if they see something, say something by reporting emergency, threat, and suspicious activity to 911. And speaking of community safety, tomorrow the mayor will be making an announcement at 1854 Rhode Island Avenue in front of the Dr. Bruce home to announce the recipient of the DC Building Block Grant. Again, you're more than welcome to come. This announcement will take place at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. The address is 1854 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast. And that will be all for my update. I would like to take any concerns or questions that you guys may have.
Okay. Looking at the Q&A function, but looks like it's a question specifically for MPD. Does anyone have a question for the mayor's office today? Again, friendly reminder, questions are being dropped in the Q&A function, question and answer function in today's Zoom. And if you would like to speak, feel free to raise your hand. Just be mindful, everyone, that specific questions that could be handled in an email. I'm sorry, I don't want to say it that way, but if there's specific questions that can be handled in an email, let's share each other's contact information and do that way. But if there's a question that you think everyone can benefit from listening to and asking at today's meeting, always feel free to ask that question. Just want to always be mindful of the time. And looks like there's no questions, but Nokomis, if you could just please share your contact info in the chat. Looks like the Heck Warehouse Tenants Association would like to get in contact with you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Nokomis. We appreciate you coming out today.
No problem. Thank you.
Lieutenant Hakir, are you available?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
I'm so sorry. I had to end up doing this from my cell phone with my AirPods. I was having some trouble with my work computer, but I hope everybody's having a good evening. And I do have some information for you guys. I would like to say that I was looking at the crime stats, and crime in this particular area is slightly up. For the last 30 days, it's a little higher than it was for this same 30 days in 2021. The last time we had a meeting, the crime was down for the same 30 days. So let me just tell you, when I say the crime is up, I have a little thing. I can't share my screen with you because it's on my cell phone, but we did have a homicide that attributed to the crime being up. The homicide was on June the 11th. I'm wrong. We had a homicide April the 16th, and that homicide was at 11th Place and Rom Street in Northeast at about 4 a.m. At this time, it's still actively under investigation. If anybody, I know it was at 4 a.m., so there probably weren't many people that's on this meeting or that were awake at the time. But if anybody has heard anything, please feel free to shoot me an email, or you can reach out to our detective's office. So that was one homicide that we had. And then in the month of May, give me just 1 second. No, we had another one. There's like this huge spreadsheet with all the crime. I'm just trying to get it for you guys. Homicide. Here we go. March the 13th.
May 13th.
May 13th. I'm sorry. Yes. And that was at 1211 Rom. So, you know, this particular area, Rom Street, 1100 block and 1200 block. It's unfortunate that we had kind of two back-to-back homicides there. And we have been, I don't know if you all have seen them. I hope you have, but we have been sending whenever we have extra units or units that are, I'm not going to call them extra units. So basically what's happening is, in light of all these like First Amendment demonstrations that are happening throughout the city, the police department activates what we call civil disturbance units, where officers' days off get canceled, their schedules get changed, and they kind of get deployed where they can sit just in case there's a lot of civil unrest. But what the department has been doing is allowing a lot of our officers to stay in the districts during those times and stay there unless there's cause for them to actually go downtown. So what we've been doing with those officers is putting them in the hotspot areas. I did get some feedback from some citizens who saw the officers and appreciated them being out there. And we have been putting them in Trinidad, specifically in on the Benning Road corridor, and in Ivy City as well. So that's one thing. Another thing in reference to the uptick in crime that we've been seeing is that we have an increase in ADWs only by one additional. Last year, this time we had 8. This last 30 days, we had 9. So there's one extra ADW. And ADWs aren't always shootings. You know, they're assault with a dangerous weapon. So it can be a knife or something other. And but we did have one additional one. And we also have one additional robbery this month that occurred more than the last 30 days, the same 30 days last year in 2021. So like I said, our crime is slightly up. Theft from autos are down by 45%, which is pretty good. But at the same time, stolen autos are up. So we're still getting a lot of people leaving their cars running and, you know, running in to get something or dropping off Uber Eats or whatever the case may be. And people are getting into those cars and driving off. I know Captain Merrill started something. He collaborated with some of you all and members in the community to do a Trinidad Unity Day, and it was held yesterday. And I was not there because I was the watch commander at starting at 1, so I didn't come in early for that, but Captain Merrill was there. And I know that there are some community engagement things planned that are coming up so that people in the community can meet more of the officers, feel more comfortable coming to the officers, try to get to know who's on their beat, and so that we can try and work out some of these issues that we've been having as it relates to the disconnection between the officers and the people in the community. So I know you said there was at least one question for me. I'm sure there's plenty more. If anybody has questions about specific crimes, I probably can help you with that because I do have, you know, like the spreadsheet in front of me. But other than that, I'm open for any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Just a friendly reminder, if you have a specific question that you think is more a conversation that can be held between the lieutenant and yourself, feel free to get her contact information and follow up. If you have a question that you think the community should listen in on, please ask those questions. So Ms. Diaz here says, could you speak to any comprehensive plan to address the illegal drug distribution that occurs on Neal and Orange Street Northeast? This is in Trinidad.
Did you say, she said illegal, right?
Yes.
Illegal drug distribution. So we are getting, I know yesterday specifically, we had like a few people that we thought were like high on PCP. I'm not saying it's coming from that specific location, but what I will say is that whenever we get drug complaints, we forward that to it used to be called NSID. It's our violent crime unit. They kind of go throughout the entire city. They dress in plain clothes. They get confidential informants. They do observation posts, and they place those offenders under arrest. I know the last meeting that we had, they, along with the FBI, did some search warrants in Trinidad, recovered some guns. So drug dealing is definitely being investigated. But that's kind of more of a behind the scene thing. You won't really see it until you see a ton of officers and vests going in, like on a search warrant type of thing. But they are constantly investigating those. So if you have a specific tip, like somebody has on a certain clothing, if you actually saw them pass some drugs, we can use those things as a reasonable suspicion to make a stop of those individuals, especially if the description is specific enough. Because if you have like a group of people hanging outside, they might all kind of have on the same thing, white t-shirt, blue jeans. So we need something to distinguish that person from the other people. And we won't knock on your door or tell them if you called us, that you called us, but we need that to make the stop. And then once we make the stop, we can start talking to them and try to determine if they do possess or are possessing any contraband. And if so, then we'll place them under arrest.
Okay, follow-up question to that. I'm sorry, I didn't ask if the commissioners had any questions. I'll ask a follow-up question to that. Lieutenant, what exactly are you looking for when you get these type of calls? I have a lot of residents that call in for supposed illegal drug trafficking. The police officers show up, they speak to whoever is suspicious. Nothing really comes out of it. So what are some things that residents can do better when reporting these type of situations?
Okay, so I hear on the radio a lot for the officers to respond to the group of people hanging out, or the group of people hanging out playing music or being loud or being disorderly. And when the officers get there for a call like that, they say, you know, well, they're not committing any specific crime, so there's nothing specific we can do. But if you know that the person is selling drugs, so I grew up in DC, right? I knew that the people who lived in front of my apartment building when I was a kid sold drugs. And I knew when I looked out the window that they would put the drugs on the tire of the blue car. You know, I could see those things, right? But I wasn't calling the police. So what I would say is, if you're home and you see this happening, we need that specific information, because if we don't get it, the people are going to say we're harassing them. That's what ends up happening. They say, y'all are harassing us. We're not doing anything. We're just standing outside. But if you know that the guy with the, green t-shirt on just put a stash of marijuana underneath a trash can, we need to know that, because then we can develop the probable cause we need to place them under arrest. And that's what we really want. But since we can't, obviously they're not going to do it while we're sitting there. So we found that it's ineffective to have officers go and sit, because they're going to just stop. They're going to play dead. They're not going to do anything. So give us as much information as you can. And the disorderly calls, like if you say they're just hanging out and making noise, the officers really can't do much. Those guys, a lot of them have started making complaints saying that they're being harassed by officers. And so you get what I'm trying to say.
Well, we get that a lot in Ivy City and Trinidad, where residents are calling the cops on other residents, and it is harassment, because you're using these police as almost weapons against them. And at least that's what some of our residents are telling us. So we're, as commissioners, we're just trying to be the best bridge possible to residents and PD to ensure that some of this stuff doesn't get as hectic as it can be, because it has been in the past. So we appreciate your transparency and just letting residents know. if you see something, you can say something, but the police are going to need something as detailed as possible. So, so thank you for reminding us on how to approach that. We have any other commissioners have questions before we go with these last two right here for Lieutenant?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Hi,
Blacknell.
Hi,
how are you?
fine. I it was on Memorial Day because I get up early, I go to work. This happened between 4:30 and 5 o'clock on the 2100, the 800 block of 21st Street. There
Okay.
was altercation. It was a domestic altercation, and so shooting was involved and everything. And I wondered, do you have anything in reference to that and everything? Because they did find shell cases inside of the minivan.
Okay, hold on 1 second. You said this was on the 31st, correct?
The 30th, yep, or 30th, on Memorial Day. I think, yeah, Memorial Day.
Okay, just give me, it won't take me but a second to try and find it real quick. Memorial Day, 800 block of 21st. I don't know why I don't. So on the 30th, we have 2 thefts that occurred. On the 29th, there was another theft. Let me see, 30th, a robbery. For some reason, I don't see that on my spreadsheet, and every crime that was committed in this area should be on my spreadsheet.
Because I walked into it. I do leave out of my house by about 10 minutes to 5. And I was walking down the street, and one of my constituents told me what happened because she was scared because she couldn't get to her car. But they finally moved out the way. They didn't tape the street off or anything, but it was like blocked off with, the police cars and everything.
Okay, you said the 800 block of 21st.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind, give me your email address real quick. I'll look into it and just shoot you a quick email when we get off the call and see what I find.
Okay, 5do4.gov.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll look into it.
Lieutenant, a question from the Q&A. What is being done to decrease accidents on Benning Road? Several vehicles have flipped over in the past month on Benning. This is from Skip Keats.
So we, I talked about this before, not necessarily accidents, but we do have some officers that are specifically assigned to do kind of like traffic enforcement in the Benning Road corridor. And I know that we had, let me see, said an overturned vehicle. I think besides our officers doing enforcement, if people are speeding and stuff on Benning Road, we might want to talk to DDOT about photo radar cameras to try and help reduce the speed of drivers. We all know that photo radar, it doesn't help for stolen cars or anything like that. That's what our officers are for the traffic enforcement. But I think that will probably be the best idea, because to be honest, I don't see a lot of speeding during my shift, which is the evening shift. It's the most busiest shift. I think that probably occurs in very early morning, late at night when there's less cars, because Benning Road is normally pretty stacked with cars. To whereas you can't really go like 30 over the speed limit. So I would think DDOT and DDOT would need to maybe be in the talks about photo radar.
Okay, Commissioner Rhodes, did you have a question? I'm sorry, you had your hand raised.
Yes, just really quick, Lieutenant. Do you all have any jurisdiction over at Lewis Crow Park? Or is that just DC Housing Authority?
That's DC Housing Authority. And as of lately, I know that they open the park in the morning, they close the park in the evening. And I also know that a couple of weeks ago, they were closing the park and there were some people in there who were high. And of course, because they were high, they could not comply with leaving the park because it was closing. And housing police ended up having to use force on this person who ended up going to the hospital because they were like high on PCP. It wasn't like a heroin fentanyl high. It was, PCP. So, but that's strictly housing police. But in a situation like where they need assistance like that particular day, of course we go and we will back them up, but that's fully their jurisdiction.
And so you all send those folks to jail, or do you send them to another department so that they can get themselves together? And
yeah. Typically the people who are high, we send them to the hospital because they need help, right? If they are a clear danger to themselves or somebody else, the hospital might put them, do like a sort of a psychiatric hold. Our CPEP in DC, which is where we take most people who are a danger to themselves or others,
right.
They don't accept people who are under the influence. Yeah,
Okay.
we take them to the hospital. So, and then oftentimes the hospitals get flooded. I mean, they might tell us Washington Hospital Center is full. They don't have any more beds for people who are high. So it's kind of rough, but that's what we do. We take them to the hospital.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, one final question before we move forward with the agenda. From Tyler Whitaker, can you please share any details about the ADW on the 1800 block of Benning Road on May 25th?
Yep, let me look. Just give me 1 second.
While you do that, Mark Collins, are violence interrupters working in Trinidad? Yes. If so, is MPD coordinating with them? While there is definitely concerns regarding drug sales at Neal and Oren, there has been a spillover in violence from that location that's more concerning. Someone was shot and killed there about a year ago, and there was a gunfight, not a shooting, in front of my house. Mark Collins, Cure the Streets is located on Mount Olivet Road Northeast. The exact address, so you can knock on their door, is 1109 Mount Olivet Road Northeast. They are highly active. They're highly active on that area as well of Trinidad. So feel free and walk over and ask them any questions, see what they got going on. They're always available, always there to help out, answer any questions that residents might have on what they're doing.
I have an answer in reference to the 1800 block of Benning. Give me 1 second. I'm just reading real quick just to make sure I got all the facts. Okay, this ADW was not a shooting, it was a stabbing. The suspect was placed under arrest because when the officers got the call, they responded directly to the location and encountered the victim who pointed out the suspect on the scene. So this appeared to have been an isolated incident. Let me just see just one more thing. I'm gonna look at the public narrative real quick. Okay, the guys were having an argument. So the guy who was arrested was having an argument with other people in the 1600 block of Benning Road. And during the argument, the defendant, he started to chase the victim. So the victim got chased to the 1800 block of Benning Road. That's where the defendant stabbed him. The defendant was placed under arrest.
Okie dokes. Well, thank you, Lieutenant, for your time today. Please drop your contact information in the chat. A lot of people are asking for it, so they can directly contact you regarding their questions that they have. We appreciate your time today. Best of luck since we have a break. Best of luck this summer. We don't expect it to be the easiest one. So wishing you and your colleagues a safe one. Oh, you muted, Lieutenant, but we got you. We know you're gonna drop your
Thank you. I'll put it in the chat now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Okay. And moving forward with the agenda, I believe we have, I'm sorry, lost it for a second. We believe we have the council member's office. Is Ms. Crawford available? Where did I put the agenda?
Hi, everyone. I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks again for having me. It's good to see you all as usual. I just have two updates. The first is that last week we had our final vote on the budget. And this again is the fiscal year 2023 budget that begins October 1st of this year. We released some high-level highlights on Councilmember McDuffie's social media pages, but Kelly plans to send out a more detailed version of those updates in comparison to last year to all the ANC commissioners tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then second, I know that regarding public safety, Commissioner Saceda Guzman asked us just to report out on our plans around public safety, particularly before both ANC, this particular ANC like 5D goes on recess, as well as the council going on recess. And our constituent services team is working on two different things. First, they're working on a flow chart that they want to flesh out and publish just on existing services and resources, because we get a lot of calls from residents, and we've even heard today just trying to figure out the steps in the process, because not all things are homicides. We also get calls about people experiencing homelessness, people who are using drugs. And so I know Kelly and Silas are working on that right now, and I have a draft up, but basically it has resources for MPD, all the violence interruption programs, when to call the Department of Behavioral Health, the Department of Human Services, CSOSA, the ONE's office, the DC's task force on gun violence. So just trying to house all these resources in one place, just so residents know when and who to call. And then second, they're also planning and combining that with an event where they plan to have a lot of the CBOs in attendance, particularly, I believe, the CBOs that provide some of the services that I just mentioned, just to be able to provide those resources, and so people can see who they're actually going to be reaching out to. And third, there's also been, I believe there was recently an auditor's report on some of the violence interruption programs. And I know Councilmember McDuffie is really interested in those findings and just trying to dig a little bit deeper and learn about what's actually been effective with those violence interruption programs. So I can also put that in the chat for you all in case you haven't seen the report. And that's all I have.
Commissioners, are there any questions for the representative from the council member's office? Ms. Crawford, since April, we were asking for council member McDuffie's presence at Trinidad, specifically on Rom Street. We have not got a response in the past 8 weeks. That was in response to a homicide that occurred the weekend prior to April 20th. And then I spoke to you on our last public meeting to see if we can get an update on that request. Have not got an update from you or anyone else from your office. Since then, we had another homicide. I believe Christine Chase was killed, shot through the neck on Rom Street, well, the alley between Miggs Place and Rom Street. We're not expecting things to get any better. So we understand your office's attempt to collect information that could be readily available for residents, but that's why we have Google. So we just want to see our representatives on the Black. I'm sorry, ma'am, but after 8 weeks,
that was
trying to request just someone to come and show up while we see him attend other events, that it's it feels disrespectful. Like we're not really, no one cares about us. So I know it's a common thread across South Ward 5 that we have these issues, but when we request someone's presence, we do expect at least a follow-up to it. And we haven't had anything. So whether my comment was rude or not, I think it's even more rude just to not even get an acknowledgement or a follow-up.
I know you've been in touch with Kelly.
For these last 2 homicides?
For the ones on Rom.
No, she sent an email letting me know that it's happened, but she has not even let me know that anything's been followed
I
up
have
since
talked
then.
to Kelly. I could talk to her again. I have talked to her about those shootings. She says she's been in touch with you.
Well, there seems to be a disconnect in your office then, because that's not the case. And as the commissioner,
You
that
just said she
supposedly,
sent an email, though.
I'm sorry.
You just said she sent an email though. Like, I don't want you to be
to let me know that that those homicides occurred, but
Okay.
nothing in response to our request to have at least someone come and speak to us regarding these issues and see what we can do. I'm not the only person on this meeting that feels this way. I'm just being I'm being polite about it. Yeah, you're saying I'm being rude, but we all know we can be nastier. There's no need for that. So we're just trying to see if this individual that represents us in Ward 5 can just come out and speak to the residents regarding our concerns, because we've been trying to do this since October and he has not come out. So those conversations were originally had with Kelly Sislo, but we've had even more deaths since then outside of the overdoses. We're just talking about the gun violence. We're not even talking about the multitudes of overdoses in this specific area. We're just talking about the gun violence. So
I appreciate it, and I hear the concern, and I will take this back to my office and we will follow up.
Is there a timeline, maybe 2 or 3 weeks for a follow-up?
Let's say 2.
Let's say 2 weeks. Okay, thank you, Ms. Crawford. I appreciate that. Commissioners, are there any other questions for the council member's office? Any residents have any questions for Ms. Crawford? Okay, thank you, Ms. Crawford, for your time.
Thank you all for having me.
Okay, those are standing presentations. We'll move forward with our special presentations, and I believe Commissioner Moore, Chairwoman Moore, is available now to take it from here.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for handling the first part of the meeting. I had some important family medical issues to deal with, so really appreciate you, stepping up to the plate.
Not a problem.
So let's move forward with our special presentations. Trinidad Pepco substation demolition. Is Trevoris Culpepper on the line, or anyone from Pepco to present information regarding that substation demolition? I'm looking in the participants and I don't see anyone.
I'm promoting the panelists.
Oh, okay, great. Give you a moment there. All right. And Mr. Culpepper, I do see you.
Hi, yes, this is Trevoris Culpepper. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Thank you all very much for allowing me to come before you today to present on the Trinidad substation demolition project. And I know that we had talked with some of the commissioners before, specifically Mr. Cobb, and also residents in the area about the proposed demolition at the substation. We were planning on beginning demolition a few weeks ago, where we were, you guys may have remembered us last summer hauling out some of the equipment, in the substation. We also have been doing some site work, and just to let everyone know that that substation is no longer in operation at this time. It has not been serving the area since the early 1990s, and we have identified a need to demolish the substation. Again, as I stated before, last year we did come and remove some of the equipment. We were preparing to put in the beginning preparing the site for demolition, but we have at this time suspended the demolition until further notice. I believe that we're looking at an opportunity in August to revisit the potential of demolishing the site. So crews have not begun really working as they have worked actually planning on doing, and they have postponed that demolition until further notice. So I just wanted to provide that update to you all. And once we do begin on the demolition, I would like to come back before you to discuss the demolition and then the duration.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you providing that update to the community so we're aware of what's going on.
Yes, no, thank you very much. And we have been in touch with Commissioner Cobb, who we met on site as well a few weeks ago. And then we did have a community meeting with his partnership. But I just learned that demolition has been paused at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate you still joining anyway. So let's move forward in our agenda after that short and sweet update. I believe we have Marcia Birnbaum with us this evening to talk with us about the DC Public Restroom Initiative and give us an update on where that stands and potentially some locations in our area. Ms. Birnbaum, I think you're on mute still.
Thank you very much. I was hoping you could give me screen share so that I can share.
Oh, yeah. You should see the option to become a
my video. Thank you.
And then you can share.
Let me just get it up here. Let's see. Start screen. Okay.
Right. And we can see
okay, there we are. There we are. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me just put it into view mode. Okay. Well, I'd like to begin by thanking you, Commissioner Moore, for inviting us to participate. It's a real honor. We have already done presentations at the ANCs for the other two sites, DuPont Circle and Union Station. And so my name is Marcy Birnbaum. I'm retired from working in international development with USAID and have been spending my career since retiring working alongside DC's population experiencing homelessness as a proud member of the People for Fairness Coalition. And out of the coalition, we began a downtown DC public restroom initiative many years ago with several colleagues who are homeless and formerly homeless. We did our research, and our concern was the lack of clean, safe public restrooms in our city, our nation's capital. We did research. We did not want to reinvent the wheel, and we came up with lessons learned from other cities from our research and documenting what was happening. So our research led to, in 2017, Councilmember Nadeau's presenting the bill, the Public Restaurant Facilities Installation and Promotion Act, which was inspired by our research, and we contributed to the drafting of it. And that bill was fortunately passed. It was a fascinating process for us as citizens to advocate. And it resulted in 2 pilots. And one of the pilots was for standalone public restrooms, and a working group was formed to come up with recommendations. And one of them is Starburst. So I want you to know that we have read the report. We find it very well written. We have some comments. We're coming out with a statement. And we would like to, we were not on the working group. We presented to them. Our presentation is on the website. So if you look there, you'll see dcpublicrestrooms.org gives you an update. We keep an update on what's happening with the restroom initiative, because now DC Public Restrooms, our objective is to help ensure the successful implementation of this initiative, because these are 2 pilots, one of standalone restrooms and the other I'll go into. If they're successful, then they will be progressively extended for future years, and there's funding in the budget. So if these 2 standalones are successful, then there will be 2 more added for the next 4 years, up to 10, and hopefully beyond. So what I'd like to do is take you through very quickly, and what we have, who needs public restrooms in DC and why, the serious lack in DC, and options for them that we have looked at. It doesn't mean necessarily they'll be used. I'd like to go over, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, Law 2280 with the same name, and what we've learned from our research. And then I'd like to focus the primary on Starburst on the 2 locations. So we've been out to visit, we're researchers, we'll do anything. We've been out to visit the 2 locations, 17th and Benning Road and Starburst Plaza on several occasions, around 11 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and 11 at night. And when in 2 occasions, we had a chance to talk to several of the people in Starburst Plaza to ask them questions about their usage of restrooms and the needs. I also had the opportunity to speak to Captain Fronek of the 5th Police District to get his opinions. So what I'd like to do is share this. So quickly, because I want to focus, yeah, ma'am?
Quickly, I just want to know, we're still looking at the agenda. So if you mean to be sharing your
I'm on share screen.
Yes, but we're looking at the meeting agenda rather than your presentation.
How weird. Now that I don't understand. Just one moment. Okay, forgive me. I have the agenda up, but let's see if, now I'm having a few technical issues here. Let me just go and oh, okay, that meeting agenda is up there and somehow didn't get off. Okay, well, let's hope this works. Can you now see it?
Give us just a minute here.
Yeah, I don't know why, because it was up on my screen, but it should be say piloting clean, safe public restrooms in DC.
So right now I don't see a shared screen.
Well, okay.
Now I see the Zoom call.
Yeah,
it might be that you have multiple screens.
No, I don't. Let me just go back into this and see if I did. I thought I was in share screen. I was in share screen. Let me go back into it. So I should be on share screen. Can you see it now?
I see a blank white screen.
Whoa, I am very embarrassed. This has never happened in sharing, but let me then ask you, because it says you were screen sharing. It tells me that we're screen sharing. And
it just happens to be showing that it's a white screen. So,
so apparently it's not working, but because it says you are screen sharing. So I'm going to ask you, it does show on my screen. So I just sent you that presentation. More, if you could put it up. I do apologize. It shows me that it's screen shared and I have no idea. This has never happened. So my apologies here. Let me get out of this and remove screen sharing and you can put it up. I sent it to you about 6:45.
Let's see if I can do that. I'm on a iPad, so let me see what I can do here. Give me just a moment to catch up with my email.
Came to about 6:45, Commissioner Morse.
Got it. Okay. Let's try. If any of the commissioners are on a laptop.
You didn't receive it?
No, I'm on a mobile device.
Oh, okay. Well, I let me forward it because I sent it directly to you. Let me forward it to the other commissioners. I really never anticipated that this would happen. Let me do that right now, Commissioner. So I'm going to send it to, it's called PowerPoint for tonight's presentation. I will forward it to Ian. Okay, 5D01, Ms. Rhodes, 5D02.
And if one of the commissioners could let me know if you're on an actual laptop.
To Mr. Salceda. So I've sent it to, I'm about to send it to the two of you. If that, should I send it to more of you? I will go ahead and do that.
So you
can send it to me, ma'am, and I'll open it.
Okay, well, I've just forwarding it to you right now. And again, so sorry. I've never had that happen. You should get it. The title is PowerPoint for tonight's public restroom presentation.
And we'll give just a moment there for Commissioner Salceda Guzman to get that email.
Do you have it, Commissioner Salceda?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just downloading it now.
Okay, and again, wow, new things happen. I'm not a tech expert. I'm 37 years young, 73, but I thought I was able to do all this, but hey.
But you know what? It's fine. All's well that ends.
No, I mean, technology is wonderful and it's not so wonderful. So anyway, let me just wait until we get this up on the screen properly. And I promise I'll go through this quickly. Fantastic. Okay, so the title is Piloting Clean, and this is our website. You can go in and see our research, the law, our many presentations. The presentations we did for the other ANCs are up on the website. Yours will go up later. So if we could go to the next slide, and I'm going to go through the next very quickly. So basically, as we all know, everyone deserves ready access to clean, safe public restrooms when nature calls. And some of us know how urgent it is. It's a UN recognized human right. It's fundamental, as we know, to human dignity, key for personal and public health, fosters river livability, good business sense. Businesses benefit because then people don't come in and use their restrooms, don't poop in front. And especially needed for many people who are restroom challenged, and you can see them. I happen to be 73, my bladder's getting smaller, and when I have to go quickly. Next slide. So the good news is that the European and Asian capitals have believed for a long time this is important, and in many cities that you go to, it's just sort of a given that you will go onto a website or an app and you'll see all these restrooms, public restrooms that are available, but not so in our district. In 2015, 16, and 17, we visited 5 localities, not yours. We had 2 criteria: a lot of pedestrian traffic during the day and night, a lot of people experiencing homelessness. They included DuPont Circle, Gallery Place, Columbia Heights, and along K Street, and off the mall. And we found the businesses were increasingly, we went in to see whether restrooms were open to the public. Our research is up there. People let us in, my colleagues in, and whether it was clean and safe. And at that point, half of the 85 we went to let people in. A year later, 28 did, and a year later, only 11 did. And I think all of you see more and more signs saying restrooms for the public only. I remember going in to visit your CVS, and in fact, the restrooms behind a locked door. So off the mall, this was a few years ago, and things have changed since COVID. There are only 5 public restrooms in the downtown area, and only 2 open 24/7 in all of DC. So the Lincoln and Jefferson Memorial, good luck if you're down partying in any area of town and don't have a car. Next slide. So let's go over the law. The law, Public Restrooms Facility Installation Promotion Act, calls for 2 pilots. The one, which we're dealing with tonight, is to install and maintain 2 standalone public restrooms in high-need locations in the district. And on May 4th, a working group came out with a report that provided recommendations for the characteristics of a standalone and recommended 3 locations, of which 2 are to be selected. And they are DuPont Circle, Union Station, and Starburst Plaza with 2 locations. It also creates a program to provide financial incentives to businesses and select bids to open their restrooms to the public. This is really important. In Europe, and this is patterned on community toilet scheme, businesses receive incentives to open restrooms to the public during their hours that they are open, and they cannot turn anybody away. And so, as I said, if successful, 1 or both will be extended for 4 years. Next. Next slide. So, what have we learned from our research regarding conditions for selecting a site? Really critical. If the site is not selected appropriately, it can produce problems. And so we're looking at selecting a site for a standalone open 24/7 that is clean and safe. So I'm going to go through them. Next. First of all, there should be no restrooms nearby that are accessible to the public. In your case, you don't have a public restroom nearby. You do have Safeway, which is open, I believe, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. with two single toilets, maybe not the cleanest, but they're available. Very high level of pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic during the day and late at night if open 24/7. Critical is that it's located in an area that is visible to pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and ideally at or near a commercial area where you have a lot of people coming. There's stores, restaurants, bars open during the day, and in the case of the latter, open late at night. Continue. Ideally, a wide variety of pedestrian traffic. You've got shoppers, tourists, families with children, elderly, walkers, bikers, joggers, people coming to and from work, people experiencing homelessness. It doesn't mean you can't install them in others, but with different precautions. Very, very, very important is high level of community buy-in and support. And this all comes from crime prevention through environmental design principles that have been used in selecting locations and building community. And so in the areas where it's worked well that we know, the communities out there, the businesses, the neighbors, they're keeping their eyes. If they see something weird happening during the day, they're going to call. To continue. And at night, either a security officer working nearby that could keep an eye out and or police who do rounds. Very important to be close to lighting at night for street lights and others, if possible, near CCTV. And ideally, to reduce cost of installation near water and sewer connections. So those are the criteria we've looked at and which we're going to be using in looking at what the suggestions are. Next slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because that's not the purpose of this presentation, but the working group is coming up with criteria for selecting a standalone. These are the ones that we've researched the most closely. It doesn't necessarily the ones will be used. On the left is something called the Portland Loo, which we'll look at, which is available in several places throughout the United States and Canada, and automated public toilets in the light, right, that are available in San Francisco in all kinds of combinations and permutations throughout Europe and Asia. So I'm going to flip through the next two quickly. So the automated, if we go to the next slide. The automated public toilet, I suspect some of you have had a chance to see them and use them elsewhere, not in DC. It's open 24/7, size of a parking place. These are both of them about 6 feet by 10 feet. They're clean, but there are issues in some locations. They're kept clean with water sprayed inside, although there are issues when people drop things on the floor and there's nobody to clean it. Safety issues, not in all locations, but in some, because you can't see and hear what's happening inside. So in some areas, inappropriate. There's inappropriate use such as prostitution, drugs, whatever. Fairly expensive, but hey, it's certainly an option and it's being used. The next one, which is our personal, back one slide, I'm sorry. Our Portland Loo, which we did a detailed study on and looked at the experience in various cities, and our report is there and we take it. So it's designed using crime prevention measures. You have louvers so you can see and hear what's happening inside, lighting inside and outside at night. One of the things that's particularly nice given COVID is one of the key concerns on COVID is air circulation in restrooms. This provides very natural air circulation in and out. It's always put in visible areas with lots of pedestrian traffic with a wide variety of use. It's designed for minimum stay in water use. So you don't want to, you want to get in and out there quickly because it wants to be used often. You don't want to design it so somebody's going to want to spend the night there. It's simple, it's clean. There is no sink because on the other side is the sink. So the last thing that you touch the door, but you walk out and you wash your hands. It's open 24/7. We have found through our research, unless it's located in an inappropriate location, it's clean and safe. I will share with you two situations where it did not work. One took place in San Diego several years ago where it was inappropriately placed with not near people who could keep an eye out at night and during the day. It was in the ballpark. It was vandalized, used inappropriately, and eventually removed. The other one was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was placed in a location with all the best intentions, and it should be, where a homeless shelter was, where there was a a soup kitchen and a health clinic, but it was not an area that a lot of people frequented. And they put in 2 of them, and it didn't take long before the drug kings got in there and started using them to sell drugs, and they were used inappropriately. So they continued. They did not get rid of it, but they closed it at night, and they had a person there throughout the day. Everybody should have them. Now let's move into your location. All right, so this is taken from a Google map, and you know the area better than I do, but you see the confluence of Maryland Avenue, Bladensburg, I guess Bedding Road and H Street. And so at the corner, as you can see on the left, is Starburst Plaza. And to the right is the corner of 17th and Benning, which is right at the corner of a location where Hechinger Mall is, where there's parking. They have both been situated there because they're near water and sewer. And their criterion for selecting them was number of bus stops and metro stops. So let me comment a little bit about those. So the 17th and Benning, it's open and visible, absolutely. It is near water and sewer, that's great. There's lighting at night. However, and we've seen this, and you folks would know more, we've been there during the day and night and talked to others, there is very little pedestrian traffic there day or night to use it. We spoke with the captain, if I mentioned it. So I spoke with Captain Fronek of the 5th Police District, and I said, you know, you go out at night, tell me about safety. What do you think of that location? He said, well, right across from, there's a McDonald's, but right across at the corner is a laundromat. And you need to know that that laundromat is a major place for selling drugs and drug users. And he said, I would not feel comfortable going into that restroom at night with that. I'm just telling you what we heard. So Starburst, we, as I said, we were there during the day and at night. We ended up talking to a variety of people in the plaza. And this is basically what we heard. We heard that during the day, there's plenty of people, plenty of use, a lot of people who spend their days there who are not employed, and others who come in and out, you know better than I do. And we asked them about at night. We found nobody there at night when we were there at 11. And we asked them about pedestrian traffic at night. And we were told, one person said, yeah, there are some, but most said none. And so we asked whether it would be a good idea to install something that was open there at night. And the reaction of a couple of them, I'll just tell you exactly what one said. He said, oh, I wouldn't go there. And the other said it would be trashed. So and when I asked the captain, he said, yeah, I have the same concern about safety and drugs at night. So the issue here is not whether to have a restroom or not. You definitely have a need. But the questioning there would be, is it appropriate or necessary to have it at night? During the day, yes, there's definite usage. I did, by the way, ask the gentlemen who were there where they went to the restroom. They looked at me and they said, well, we piss on the wall. We piss on the wall and we go to the tree. I said, oh, and so do you go to, over to Safeway? And it was like, no, why would we go there? And I don't think they would go further. So I think the bottom line here is the question of community, eyes and ears during the day at both locations, but at night, you don't have many people there. This is very unlike DuPont Circle, for example, where you have a whole bunch of things happening at night and a lot of pedestrian traffic and such. So certainly, and this is obviously your decision, it would appear from what we've learned that yes, at some point now or later, a restroom is definitely needed in that area. And what I ask you to do is don't take our word for it. You know the area, go and talk to some of the people in the plaza, go speak to the police captain, get his views. But that is basically what we have to say. And let me move one last slide is the visual image. So On your left is the corner of 17th and Benning. And as you can see, it's a nice visible location where the grass is, but very few people passing by. And then there's Starbucks Plaza. So I now open it for any questions. And again, our objective is to provide information. Your job is to use this information as you see fit in deciding. The bill, the working group is very clear that comments are due by June 30th. And I will send the location for the comments to the website, but that the view of the ANC, as you know, carries great weight. So what your decision will be listened to very carefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So what I'll do is just remind folks in the public that if you have a question or a comment, please put it in the Q&A box and not the chat. You know, the chat is really just you guys chit-chatting with each other. It would be like if you stepped out of the room at a live meeting to have a conversation. If you have a Q&A regarding the presentation, put it in the Q&A. First up, we'll start with commissioners. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
I had a quick question. In terms of selecting these locations, was there any interest potentially in moving these potential sites, or these are kind of solid, knowing that over here in Mount Olivet, in the Lewis Crow Park, Mount Olivet in West Virginia Avenue area, we have a lot of individuals that tend to defecate on properties and use the bathroom on a lot of our vacant properties, because we do have a lot of vacant properties in this part of Trinidad. Is there any interest in potentially looking at these locations as sites, or is this pretty much a project maybe that we can support and maybe in the future see develop further into our neighborhoods?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. I'm going to answer your second comment first. Certainly, if this is successful, you want this to be successful, because then it will be expanded to other areas. By the way, there are standalone restaurants, Portland Lou's, in many parks, and they're open during the night. I mean, they're closed at night and open during the day. What I didn't go over with you, and I should have, was how they came up with this. So last October, a year ago, this is part of the provisions of the law, the DGS sent out a survey to all ANCs, BIDs, and clean teams and asked them where they thought restrooms were needed. And so a whole shopping list came out, ranging from 1 person to 2 to 7 or 8 in different locations. When it came time for them to select the locations they were going to look at, they chose locations that had 2 people or more as being suitable. They interpreted that as community support. We do not. But that's what they used. And they came up with 20 locations. And then they came up with a matrix. And I wish I had the screen, but I can send it to you. I should have showed it to you. What they did was they came up with a point count. Was there an alternate site location? Yes. Was it near a police and fire station? Yes or no? Was there a metro stop? Yes or no? How many bus stops? And so basically the point count that put you folks in the top 5 was you have a lot of bus stops. How many people get on or off? And that was, we personally would not have chosen that route. Then they went out and visited 5 locations. They felt very strongly that equity was a part, which I agree with. And so they visited those locations and came up with those, and there were 5. There was DuPont Circle, which came on, Union Station. By the way, the Union Station has decided they don't want it. Another location was Gallery Place, which I think would be ideal, but they felt the sideworks weren't large enough. And the 5th location was up Rhode Island Avenue, oh my goodness, during a shopping center up, which they had some issues with. So that's how Starburst came out as as one of the 3. So to answer your question, Commissioner, that's not within their purview. Now, should you be arguing for, if this pilot is successful, having other locations, your area participate? Absolutely. I think the question here in DuPont Circle, they only came up with one location and the residents weren't thrilled with it. And so they have come up with 2 other locations in DuPont Circle area, which we've looked at and agreed with. So that's my much too long way of answering your question.
Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you for that. And we are running a little bit short on time. So do any other commissioners have questions or comments? Just being mindful of the time here. Okay.
I'll send her an email.
Okay. And my primary comment is that I do have some safety concerns about both of the locations. 17th and Benny is a definite no for me. I won't add any extra adjectives, but it's a definite no. You know, both of those locations are, you know, very in my area. The second one, Starburst, you know, I do have some concerns because, you know, we have had huge issues there at this major shopping center with feces and rats. And so I do think that there is some opportunity there. I guess my concern is the fact that, you know, many of the people creating the issue are not necessarily part of the neighborhood. You know, a lot of them are coming from Maryland or wherever else, and they frequent during the daytime. And we're left dealing with the cleanup from a lot of those issues. You know, I mean, literally people are coming in on vans and things. And so I don't want to turn it into more of a hub by creating a location for people to store drugs and then service the people who are hanging out there who might be engaging in drug use.
So Commissioner, can I just add that the police captain shares your views, and I do too, but also to bend over backwards, at some point, having something at Starburst Plaza is appropriate if there's some, during the day, I would say, not with appropriate eyes and ears. And where are the eyes and ears?
And so that would be my primary comment is, you know, sometimes I think if there's a pilot program and we're keeping our eye on that, exactly that type of activity, and there's an opportunity to say, okay, well, that didn't work. And for people to be honest about it and not kind of married to continuing to do something that didn't work, I'm more open to that. You know, because I was definitely open when they did the cleanup stations during COVID, you know, to have the hand washing and all of those facilities there during COVID definitely made a lot of sense. And it did work out, but those were kind of more open. So it didn't present some of the same challenges. And I would say definitely keeping in mind locking it at night when also we don't have as much presence at that location.
Can I make one last comment? Remember, a lot rests on these pilots. If they're not successful or there's serious issues, there may not be money. There's money in the capital budget to extend them. And so that's why we want to make sure that these pilots are successful. And yeah, of course, everybody deserves access. Anyway, thank you so much. Are you going to be voting now or later?
I think we can probably, when do you need a vote from us?
Oh, I don't.
I mean, but budget season and final decisions are being made when?
Yes, so I'm going to send you the information. There's a website and your vote is due by June 30th.
Okay, so then it would need to be tonight.
Yeah.
So we can vote to give feedback. We can just go ahead and do that now. Does anyone object to us moving that to a voting action?
No.
Okay, so we can vote to do that now. I'll say as the commissioner who represents both of the locations, 17th and Benning is a definite no for me. So we would include that in our letter. But I would offer some provisional support for Starburst Plaza to have a daytime location and for us to get follow-up information regarding you know, any incidents in coordination, you know, with you all and MPD. So we can include a letter basically to that effect, but that's my stipulation because we have had a lot of issues in terms of just, you know, cleaning up at that location and just really, it's disgusting. Some of the things I've personally had to get a shovel out to do. So I do think that that's a valid concern, and we can definitely try it and see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, then we can just be honest about that.
Which again, I remind you, let's make sure it's successful.
Yeah.
Well, what the question I would have on that, Commissioner Moore, and Marcia, well, who will be responsible for cleaning up the standalone?
That is an excellent question. In other cities, it's often a bid or a main street or an organization that it's delegated to, and it's part of the work. The law provides a DGS and there's budget money in there. I have heard concerns about the reliability of DGS, but I think it's open for discussion. One very important thing is if you go ahead, they're going to consult with you, they're going to discuss. If you vote in favor, I would hang very firm on a mechanism for cleaning. So for example, if it's a Portland Loo type of restroom, you clean it according to usage 3 to 5 times a day. If it's open at night, you want to clean it early in the morning. So that's a really good question. It's not addressed in the report. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, and about how long are you planning for the pilot to last?
Well, I'm not. Remember, it's not.
How
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have. The pilot lasts a year, and during that year, there's going to be an evaluation, and the evaluation on whether it continues or not is going to be based on issues of issues with crime, issues with police reports, with phone calls, etc. So that plus the cost of maintenance and other issues will be factored into the decision on the pilots. And I will get you all of that information.
Okay. All right. So I think, my support is kind of stipulated because I want to see some, I have some safety concerns about that, and I have some comments on under what circumstances I would support even the pilot, which I think I've expressed, but, I moved to offer stipulated support for the Starburst location only, and absolutely no support for the 17th and Benning location. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes do have it, and we'll write a detailed letter kind of with what our stipulations and concerns.
And I will send you the information on where to send it. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. So we are a little bit behind, but next up on our agenda, we do have a requested presentation from Jubilee Jobs, scholarships for Ward 5D residents. Kevin Mert for the 440 Penn project. All right, do you need to share your screen with us?
I do not.
Okay.
Christine, are you on the call?
I am.
Very good.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
All right, so I know we're running tight on time, so we'll try to be a little quicker here. Really just want to give a brief PSA to a proffer program that we're developing. Again, my name is Kevin Mert. I am speaking to you on behalf of UDR, the owner and developer of the Mo, which is going to be the new multifamily project at 440 Penn Street Northeast in the Union Market neighborhood. Partnered with Christine from Jubilee Jobs. One of our proffers is to commit $30,000 to Jubilee Jobs for their job readiness and skills training program, And that's broken up into a couple different buckets. So there's $10,000 to jobs training and skill building, $10,000 to smart trip cards to help people get to and from interviews and to employment, and then $10,000 to scholarships specific to construction trades, all of which are to be dedicated and targeted towards residents of this ANC. So want to give Christine a couple minutes to share a little bit more about the mission of Jubilee Jobs, and then also open to any ideas and feedback on how we can get their mission to more people, get more people to participate in this program. And they've already helped over 27,000 DC residents, and looking forward to doing some more right in this neighborhood.
Hi, thank you.
Any other comments?
Would you like? Oh, this is Christine from Jubilee Jobs. Yes. Kevin, did you? I'm sorry.
So Christine, you're great. Just if you could give just a brief overview of mission of Jubilee Jobs and what we can do for residents here.
Absolutely. I apologize. I was at home today and I don't have a laptop, believe it or not, so I'm doing this from my cell phone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. And I can't figure out how to do the video, so I do apologize. So yes, thank you for having us. Thank you, Kevin, for getting us at this meeting. I don't know if you all, the commissioners, know about Jubilee Jobs. So before I say anything, does anyone know about Jubilee Jobs, or would you like me to launch into what we do?
If you could just briefly share, what you all do in the next couple of minutes.
Absolutely. So Jubilee Jobs is a nonprofit job placement organization. We have been in existence for 41 years. We grew out of Jubilee Housing in Adams Morgan. We have 2 locations, one in Adams Morgan and one in Southeast, right across the river on Minnesota and Pennsylvania avenues. And what we do is we help place people in entry-level, semi-skilled, unskilled work. And the reason that we are looking specifically at those jobs is because when we first started 41 years ago, we basically had residents say, help us find a job. And we said, what are your skills? And these were the skills that the applicants came to us with. So it's a job placement program. It's not a training program as such, as you might think of other training programs in the city. And basically unemployed people will come to us. There's a whole process. And we work with them after an intake interview. We talk about what jobs and skills they have. We create a resume. We sign them up for a couple interview skills workshops, and then we start doing online applications for them and with them to targeted jobs where we've actually spoken to the employer and we know there's a job opening. Our goal is to arrange interviews for applicants once we've completed the online applications, send people on interviews. And through the years, we know that, it might take 5 online applications, but all it takes is 1 interview to get hired. So that's our program, direct job placement. And I think, so we're very eager to work with anyone in Ward 5. In fact, we're open to anyone in DC and also Virginia or Maryland, but we're very eager to tap into other areas of the city. And we'd be very happy. I know we talked with Chris Fenley, who was Kevin's predecessor. We talked about possibly coming over to do orientations every quarter, somewhere in a community center for the residents, referrals, of course, and working with folks to place them in jobs. And then if an individual says, now I'd like to do training, that we would help facilitate that and work with getting folks into training.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I just have one question. If you have anyone that will be a candidate for the scholarship, would they be working here at Union Market or just any construction site in the district?
I think any construction site in the district.
Okay.
I think initially the idea was to have the residents of the area working on the construction projects, and the hire first and all of that stuff. But now it's expanded out, so it would be residents of your area, your ward, who come to us. We verify, yes, they were from this ward, and then we would work with them.
What about for returning citizens?
Absolutely. I would say about a third of our applicants who we see and placed every year are returning citizens, and so yes, okay. Absolutely. In fact, I just have an applicant who was incarcerated for many, many years. I just got him hired at the Giant at Cathedral Commons on this side of town, and I just got a text saying I got the job, and he has a big long record. So absolutely.
Okay, so how will we be able to get the candidates to you, or when does it start?
What I can do is ask Kevin to, again, because I'm on my cell, maybe send you our details, or if you just Google jubileejobs.org, there's information about our orientations. We hold them every Monday, except for this coming Monday, of course, in both of our locations. And we would love to do an orientation, as I said, in a community room over there, maybe once a month for the community or whatever. But for right now, please feel free to let any constituents know that all they should do is call us or look on the website and attend the orientation. And from there, they'll hear about the program, and immediately after the orientation, which lasts about an hour, we would then schedule them for a follow-up interview with a job counselor the next day, and we get started immediately on looking for work.
Hey, thank you for that. And if you could just drop any kind of additional information in the chat, Kevin, I see you dropped a link to the website in the chat. And I hate to cut you guys short, but we're just going to have to move forward.
Thank you.
On time.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda, we have Gallaudet and 6th Street, the development project there. And is Nick Anderson on the line to discuss the status of that project? Anyone from Gallaudet and 6th Street?
Good evening. Lawrence Ferris here. We have a few team members that we'd like to get pulled in for our presentation. If we can have Robbie Sacklerides and Nick Anderson should both be in as attendees, and I think Sophie Mushel-Horton is already in as a panelist.
Let me ask anyone who is on the team to please raise your hand if you're in the attendees area. Anyone who is raising your hand for some other reason, if you could put your hand down at this moment. Okay, and then Bosco, if you could elevate the people who have their hands up to be panelists. Okay, and do you need to share your screen with us?
Yes, I believe it'll be Oliver Link will be sharing his screen.
Okay, so we'll wait for Oliver to rejoin as a panelist. And Oliver, you're gonna have to accept when it says change your role. Okay. Oliver, you should have the option to become a co-host and share your screen.
Yep. Hello. Yes.
So,
hi.
Hi. So if you can share with us, we'll go ahead and get started as soon as you're up.
And have Robbie Sacklerides and Nick Anderson been able to join as panelists. They're also with our team, and I think actually it'll be Robbie kicking us off.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. Robbie, it's all yours.
Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. We have a lot of team members, but we'll try to be very brief. I'm Robbie Saklaridis. I'm a development manager with JBG Smith, representing the Gallaudet JBG Development Partnership on the 6th Street project. So excited to provide you guys with some updates on our first phase and introduce you to our second phase of development tonight. And we welcome any feedback you have on the second phase. So yeah, next slide. Thanks. So this is the master plan of the approved stage 1 PUD. So all of these parcels, height, density, and uses were already approved in the stage 1. And then for stage 2, we come back and finalize the design. So you might remember I was here about a year ago talking to you guys about our first phase, which are parcels 2 and 3. They're towards the south of 6th Street. And yeah, to orient you, this was focused in on the Union Market neighborhood with sort of La Cosecha in the top left and Gallaudet University in the bottom right. Our parcels are highlighted here. And yeah, that's parcel 2 and 3 to the south. We received our final action of approval on the stage 2 PUD in January, and we're waiting for the order issuance from Zoning Commission and hope to break ground in the first half of next year on that phase. So thank you all for your support. With that, I'll turn over to my colleague, Nick Anderson, to walk us through our second phase, parcel 4, the design of which is the subject of our presentation tonight. So thanks, Nick, all you.
Thanks, Robbie. Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Anderson. I'm one of the development managers with JBG Smith. So as you all may know, the first stage PUD largely focuses on things such as height, density, use, and also focuses on the site plan, whereas the second stage PUD focuses primarily on the building design, and that's what we're here to focus on this evening with you all. So as approved in our stage 1 PUD, parcel 4 is up on Penn Street in between 5th and 6th. In yellow, we have approximately 560,000 residential square feet, over 60,000 square feet of retail in pink. You can go to the next slide. So before we dive into the design portion of tonight's presentation, I wanted to briefly remind everyone of the community benefits and amenities package that was approved as part of the stage 1 PUD with full OP and ANC support. It's a long list, so we'll just stick to some of the highlights. We will be providing approximately 60 units of affordable housing as part of the project. The majority of those units will be at the 50% MFI level. We have executed a first source agreement with DOES, which will prioritize hiring local DC residents as part of the construction process. We will have 10,000 square feet of retail dedicated to a makerspace at a discount to market rent. Additionally, we have 5,000 square feet of retail dedicated to deaf or hard of hearing entrepreneurs. And now one of the big goals of the project is to really increase the pedestrian safety and experience along 6th Street. And we'll be doing that by narrowing the right of way to slow traffic, installing a protected bike lane, and then also installing a tabletop crossing at Neal. In conjunction with DDOT, we're going to help with traffic mitigation by installing new signaling and new traffic cameras. And lastly, as it relates to sustainability, our project will be LEED certified. Next slide, please. Again, we're here to focus on parcel 4 this evening, and here are just a few images of the site today, where you can see it is Gallaudet's Corporation Yard, which is currently used for construction material staging and worker parking for the parcel next door. And now I'd like to hand it off to our design team for the next segment of the presentation.
Hi, hello, my name is Oliver Link. I'm with Seldorf Architects from New York City, and we're here to give you a sort of presentation of our design. As already presented, we've discussed where we are located at the top here between 5th and 6th Street, bordered Penn Street at the north. Just wanted to point out we're at the top of the hill and we have a sort of 15-foot level change on our site, which will show you how we're taking advantage of that. We started out with our concept designing the buildings where we located the 2 major massings in a sort of east-west axis along parallel with the contours of the site. You can see here in this diagram. And then on the next diagram, in between these 2 massings, we've opened up the building. It's sort of a green zone starting on 5th Street. We are providing an entry plaza or entry court to the building, which leads us through the lobby to a sunken court and then to a second floor terrace, which overlooks the Hamilton Brentwood Park and Gallaudet University campus. And then finally, we've sort of filled in the massing with these grade zones, which we're calling bridge and infill buildings, where we've articulated the materiality in a unique way to break down the sort of mass and scale of the building. This section really just shows you what I just described, taking us from 5th Street through the entry plaza of the building, the lobby up to the second floor, and then over 6th Street, looking over the Hamilton Park and Gallaudet University campus. Our ground floor is actually divided up in 2 floor plans, just because of that 15-foot variation we have from the north to the south. But essentially here on the left, you can see 5th Street. We have the parking ramp entry to the south, and we have retail along 5th Street. You can see it here as I click between the 2 levels, and it's interrupted by the entry court plaza of the building, which leads you through the lobby here, some amenities and a court. We have further retail to the north along Penn Street, with sort of recesses along the sidewalk to provide outdoor seating area. And then also along, along 6th Street, we have more retail here in this sort of pink color with a similar sort of recess, speaking to the street and the sort of bike paths and all of that will be there. This is also where the loading dock entrance will be to the south, as well as a secondary entrance for the building. Then moving on to our concept, here we are at the corner of Penn Street and 5th Street looking southeast. And I think essentially this introductory slide shows you a sort of a rendering of how we're breaking down the mass into these 4 corners of the property, where we have simple, clean brick buildings with punctured windows and storefronts articulated in a sort of darkened metal. You can see a glimpse here of the infill buildings and then the entry court that breaks the massing apart, as I showed in the diagrams. As a firm, we've worked a lot with brick. These are some of the examples that we've done. We think the material has a strong urban identity, but also speaks to the context that we are in, especially on the Gallaudet campus, where there are many historic brick buildings. This also shows some examples of how we plan to trim out the windows with the sort of darkened metal framing. And then the sort of bridge and infill building, those gray areas that I called out would be very much different, where we would have a sort of more metal and glass infill that would provide balconies for tenants to overlook properties, as well as have outdoor space. And then on the right, you can just see we're exploring this sort of tan colored brick currently. Here, sort of elevated, if you were standing on the roof across the street on 5th Street, looking east, you can see the 2 corners are the brick buildings scaling down the overall massing, with the sort of bridge building in the middle that has balconies, as well as the infill building here to the right over the parking ramp entrance. At the retail level, we will also introduce the sort of iconic canopies that you see along 5th Street. We'll provide those wrapping in here and back out in this sort of entry court, as I called it out earlier. And then just moving around the building, here we are standing further back, again on 5th Street and Penn Street, looking southeast. We had seen this view earlier, the sort of a close-up, but I think this really gives you an idea of how we break down the building on Penn Street, with the brick building on either side, and then the balcony metal and glass components in the middle. And then finally on 6th Street, the same idea wraps around. You see the balconies, tenants looking out over the second floor terrace, and then towards us here where we're sort of hovering over the park area. And on the left, there also is the entrance to loading with a second floor green amenity space. And then along the street, we have the brick building comes down to the street with trimmed out storefronts for retail all along 6th Street, from here all along to here. Then I think I'm handing it over to David, who's our landscape architect. David, are you there?
Hi, this is Sophie.
Oh, Sophie.
Actually,
sorry,
yeah.
Sophie. Okay, go ahead,
No
Sophie.
worries. Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie Michelle Horton. I'm representing Future Green Studio. We're the landscape architect on the project. So just taking a closer look here at the overall roof plan, you can more clearly see the number of green open spaces on the site. And at the ground level, as Oliver was showing earlier, we have a number of occupiable planting zones along 6th Street, Penn Street, and 5th Street, and then large flex zones that will guide people into the entry plaza, which we'll look at more closely on an upcoming slide. On the first floor, we have an expansive pet park that will be accessible to residents. The second floor of the building includes an amenity terrace with lush garden rooms that will be observable from the public sidewalk, so really helping to green the building from the ground up. And then an additional amenity terrace and pool deck are shown at the penthouse level, which will be shaded by specimen trees and building canopy structures draped in vines. And all the planting zones on the site, including those at the private residential terraces, will include a wide range of native perennials and grasses and shrubs and trees as well that are all native to the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which are crucial for local pollinators and will enhance biodiversity in the neighborhood. Next slide.
Oops. There we go. Is this the next one? Yes.
Yeah. So here we're just looking at some precedent case studies of entry plazas of similar size and scale to the Parcel 4 Plaza, all of which we think have some really successful elements that we've studied. So the upper left image makes some great use of bench seating integrated with tree planters. The top right shows some, kind of enticing aesthetic of materials and plantings in this post-industrial context. The bottom left, Paley Park, is a charming pocket park in Manhattan with dappled shade from a simple tree grove and movable furniture. And then in the bottom right, we're looking at some nice buffer planting at the building edge with kind of an open central space that's left flexible for clear circulation. Next slide. So it's very important for us to follow DEF-based design principles as much as possible in all of the outdoor spaces on the site. It'll be really important to carefully select plants that will allow for full transparency at eye level, clear landmarks such as sculptural features that will serve as visual cues and meeting points, walking surfaces without trip hazards, textured paving that indicates transitions between pedestrian and vehicular zones, built-in seating that's designed for small and large groups to sit facing one another, materials like wood decking or crushed stone that pick up vibrations, and then an outdoor lighting scheme for enhanced visibility at night. Next slide. So then just zooming in closer to the entry plaza, we really wanted to create a space of calm repose in the heart of this industrial neighborhood. And because of this significant grade change across the block from north to south that Oliver mentioned, we also look for creative methods to address topographical shifts while still keeping the site as accessible as possible. And we wanted to acknowledge the rich history of the area and kind of imagining this entry court as a kind of excavation, as if we were unearthing remnant building foundations from the past. So the plaza here is bookended by two retail terraces for food and beverage services. They're buffered by planting, but also easily accessed from the street. And then the 7-foot grade change from north to south across the plaza will be mitigated through lush terraced planting, which will incorporate hardscape materials that will function simultaneously as retaining edges for the planting, seat walls and steps that kind of meander down to the lobby entrance level. And then the sort of open occupiable terraces you see here could accommodate small group gatherings with movable and flexible furniture. And then this sculptural feature at the center serves as a real focal point and anchor. And this is just kind of a conceptual view looking into the entry plaza from 5th Street. So you can see how the planting begins to mound up as the hill rises up 5th Street, the flexible furniture at the retail terrace, and then kind of clear circulation through to the lobby entrance.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Sophie.
I'll stop sharing.
Oh, no, we can leave it up for a second just in case there are any questions.
Sure.
Okay. Actually, if you could pull it down really quickly so we can see the audience and our interpreters back.
So stop sharing. Okay.
Yes, if you could.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see, commissioners, do we have any questions from commissioners? We'll go to commissioners first, and then if you're a member of the public and you have a question or comment, please use Q&A rather than the chat. So commissioners. Okay, and then anyone from the public, I'm not seeing any Q&A. You can also use the raise hand feature if you want to ask a question live. I don't see any hands up at the moment, but I'm giving people just a quick moment here. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing anything from the public either. So if you want to just drop some contact information in the chat in case people want to reach out to you after the meeting, if you could do that. But otherwise, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks. Next up on our agenda, we have the consent calendar. Just a brief reminder on how the consent calendar works. These are non-controversial items. If any one commissioner decides that, you know, we need more discussion on the particular item, we can remove it from the consent calendar and add it to voting actions. Any requests to do that for our one consent calendar item this month?
Commissioner, I'm actually going to request that we table this since we just found out that Pepco is not going to be doing this yet after all. And I actually just found out from this meeting myself. I had no head. So, and I'm worried that if we vote on it and send it to them now, that it's just going to get lost and shuffled and forgotten by the time they have to make a decision. So I say that we table this letter for now.
Okay, I second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. We'll table until our fall session. Voting actions. Next up, we have Selena's at 411 New York Avenue for an agri license request. Kevin Cruz, I see you're on the line. Do you need to share your screen?
I do, Commissioner. Good evening.
We'll give you that permission. Give me just a second here.
Sure.
All right, and you should have that ability now.
Okay.
All right.
It's not.
Did you accept the co-host request?
Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So, first off, good evening. My name's Kevin Cruz, and I'm here on behalf of Selena Union Market. It's located at 411 New York Avenue Northeast. With me tonight is co-counsel Michael Martinez, Carrie Torres, who is the U.S. General Counsel to Selena, and Dan Larner and Alejandro Arana, who handle the day-to-day operations of the hotel. I want to keep it short and sweet, just in the consideration of the commission's time. But basically, I have been in contact with Commissioner Rhodes. She's familiar with the project, but I am of the understanding that the rest of the commission is not. So Selena Union Market is before you tonight to request a letter from the 5D Commission in support of Selena. receiving a stipulated license from ABRA, from the ABC board, while we await the issuance of a permanent license. So some of you may be wondering, what is Selina? What does that entail? So Selina is a international hospitality brand that provides guests with customized comfort and co-working spaces abroad indefinitely. What that means is that it is for the nomadic traveler, the person who is constantly exploring and looking for different experiences, not only in the US, but across the globe. Selina hosts guests through various countries outside the US, from Austria, Greece, Morocco, Ecuador, Panama, and that's just to name a few. Overall, they host in 155 different destinations around the world, 25 countries, and 6 continents. So Selina's mission is to bring travelers and different guests from all walks of life to make connections with the places in which they stay. Selina Union Market would be no different. And this is a picture of the courtyard in Selina Union Market. This was actually designed by a local artist. And we'll tell you more in a second just about one of the cool options we offer is an art residency program for local artists and visiting artists. So this is the floor plan of the cellar level. This is pretty much a courtyard area. So part of this will be rooms for guests, and then the other half will also be artist gallery and artist studio. So this will be, artist gallery celebrating the artists in residence, whether they be local artists from the District of Columbia and the Union Market area, or artists from outside the US or outside DC. We'll have different artist-led events, artist-led talks throughout throughout our programming. So here's a picture of the courtyard. We are currently open for business. We did open for, we have been taking reservations and whatnot about, I want to say Memorial Day weekend. This is the common kitchen down here on the bottom left. This is where guests can heat up, leftover food from dinner, or if you want to watch, heat up some popcorn to watch a movie in our cinema. And we'll show you that in a second. Down below, you can see here is the artist studio, and that's for the artist residency program, which welcomes different creatives. So painters, sculptors, muralists, illustrators, designers. It's a unique opportunity for these artists to work nomadically, as I said before, and to be inspired by historic and contemporary cultures that DC, as we know, is home to. This is just a picture of the kitchen. This is the cinema, as I mentioned. These are the artists, and this was the making of the mural I showed you before in the courtyard. These are actually our artist studios for the artists in residency. So this is the ground level floor plan. This will be where guests could check in, or where they currently check in. But this will also be the home to one of our restaurants named Home, HOWM. This is an all-day dining experience from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There will be expanded holiday lunch brunch menus, as well as different chef tasting dinners and paired tasting dinners, of course. We also do plan to incorporate the performance art experience at this venue, the Home. This is our pictures of Home. This is also, it would also be a co-working space. So we do have a lot of guests. One of the great emphasis that Selina places is for our guests to work remotely indefinitely. So we do offer co-working spaces. Some of you may be familiar with WeWork. This is very similar to a business center that, you know, some of the hotels you're used to. This, and forgot to mention earlier, but Salina Union Market would be the sixth U.S. location, with locations in Miami, New York, and Chicago. So as you can see here up top, this is the home area. This is where the all-day breakfast, lunch, and dinner venue will be. Here we have the rooms, courtyard, common areas, and the co-working spaces. So the second venue in the hotel will be the rooftop. It'll be an indoor-outdoor combination concept with, again, light snacks and primarily drinks once we receive our alcohol beverage license. Offers a really nice view of Union Market. This is our wellness area on the same floor.
Okay. Can I just ask a question really briefly here? Basically, what we need to know for a stipulated ABRA license is just about your hours of operation for serving alcohol and any security plans that you've registered with the city.
Right. So we did provide our security plans to Commissioner Rhodes.
Okay.
I think we had even submitted it twice. We had to update one of them.
Okay.
I have them. I do have them.
Right.
And Commissioner Rose, did you have any questions or concerns regarding the security plan?
No, I have no questions or concerns. I'm fine with the security plan.
All right. And if you could just share with us, for any locations in your premises serving alcohol, what are the hours of operation?
Absolutely. So we did contact DCRA and ABRA to see what the permitted hours are. And we will be doing the 7 a.m. So the hours of alcoholic beverage service and consumption will be 8 a.m. to 3 a.m. on Sunday and Saturday, and then 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. every other day.
All right. So first up, let's go to commissioners for any questions or, excuse me, got the hiccups, for any questions or comments. Okay. From commissioners, and then we'll go to the public, and please use the Q&A box or raise hand feature.
I should probably stop sharing my screen, correct?
Yes, if you could, please.
Let me do that. There you go.
Okay, so any questions or comments from commissioners? Okay. And any questions or comments from members of the public? I'm not seeing any. The only comment I would make is, you know, the hours of operation are beginning a little bit earlier than we typically see in this area. But I think for this particular business model being an enclosed space, you know, I'd like to see some comparison for the full license, not necessarily the stipulated license, with others like establishments, you know, for, you know, restaurant, hotel, you know, hotel, restaurants and bars.
Sure.
Now I know there's, you know, brunch
right
on the weekends, but, you know, during the weekday, I don't know if you need to be doing any drinky teleconferencing from your WeWork.
Well, so the reason we did it for 8 a.m. and which is what was allowed by DCRA and ABRA was because we do have a grab and go in our home area, HOWM, one of the restaurants, for the sale of beer and wine. as part of our carryout license. So if guests are going on a hike up to Northern Virginia or, South Virginia, and they want to, take some beer for a picnic or wine for a picnic, that's really why we're doing it early. And our, is Dan on the line for the F&B?
Yes, I'm here.
Dan, do you know what time brunch would start on the weekends?
I don't believe it would start before 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
Right. Yeah. So, Commissioner Moore, and that's a great question as to why it's open so early. So that's really what our frame of mind was when asking for the 8 a.m. in our ABRA application.
Yeah. I mean, usually I think I ask this because, usually we try to kind of match things up a little bit with when we know we can provide police resources.
Of course.
So it's also kind of a bit of a security question for potentially dealing with anyone who it gets rowdy. And the 8 a.m. crowd for a lot of liquor license establishments attracts a certain type of behavior first thing in the morning, because if you're waking up with alcohol in your mind, it's usually not that you're trying to be on your best behavior. But I'll say that, I can leave that open to some additional questions as part of the full-on license to kind of sort that out with Commissioner Rhodes, because this is just a stipulated license at this time.
I just want to add, if I may, Commissioner, we are going to be IDing everybody. So we're going to make sure that guests and patrons are not going to be minors and are not going to be rowdy in any way. Our staff, some of them are already trained and most of them will be, trained for alcohol service at all hours of the day. Our bartenders are 21 and over. All our servers are 18 and over. So we've put all these things in place to ensure that nothing will be out of place in terms of serving alcoholic beverages any time of day.
Well, thank you for that. Okay, Commissioner Rhodes, over to you.
Okay, well, I motion to allow Selena's at 411 New York Avenue to have a stipulated alcohol license.
Okay, second. Can we get a second?
Second.
So,
okay, I'm sorry. I do actually see a question in our chat box that I do want to get to before we vote, because I do think it might impact the vote. Would anyone off the street be able to shop at this location, or would it just be the guests?
At what time are we talking about?
Or your home location for people who are coming to the store for carry-out purposes?
Normally the grab and go will not be open for people walking off the street. It's for guests only.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So sorry for the interruption there in the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. There was one person that's patiently waiting to ask a question. I think Mr. Maurice Spears.
Okay. All right. All right. And this will have to be our last one. Mr. Spears.
You can unmute yourself, Mr. Spears.
Yeah. So how you doing?
Okay.
I hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can ask your question.
Yeah, this woman. So the question is, that's Ward 5, so that's definitely my area. But also when it comes to security, we want to make sure they are trained properly to engage with the guests and also the citizens from the outside world, because we've been having a lot of complaints with the homeless people as well. So I deal with the homeless people. I'm definitely at ANC, but it's private. It's not for everybody to know that I work for the ANC commission, because I get guns off the streets. So my job is to make sure that people are getting trained properly, the engagement with special need people in Washington, D.C., because there's a lot of things I'm putting in place as well. And I'm spending a lot of money. So I definitely hear a lot of assurance, but my main focus is security and also engagement and the respect of matter in your business establishment. We want to make sure y'all have the right contract and making sure they have the right training, because sometimes a lot of complaints inside business, they don't know who to talk to.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay.
You want me to start over again?
Yes, if you could.
Okay. I move that we allow Selena's at 411 New York Avenue to have a stipulated license.
Okay.
Stipulated alcohol license.
Right. Thank you for that. Did we have a second for that?
Second.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Salcedo-Guzman, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we do offer a letter of support for a stipulated license. And just for, some understanding as a reminder, that is a temporary license until you iron out the details of the full license. So thanks so much, everyone.
Commissioner Moore, I understand the support letter may take a day or two to draft, and that's totally fine. However, the person in contact with me at ABRA suggested that if I ask you to maybe, since this is your last meeting till September, if you guys could put some sort of language saying that the commission recognizes that the ABC's board vote based on this stipulated license will take place during your upcoming summer recess. But however, you are in support of us receiving a stipulated license.
So are you saying that the vote is coming for the full license before we're back in session?
No, for the stipulated license.
Right, we realize that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, next up on our agenda, Commissioner Rhodes, you also have an amended resolution on the Carmel School.
Yes, the amended resolution just adds that DPR is going to renovate not only the school, but the entire 2 acres of the Carmel site, and that DMPED turn it over to DPR. DMPED will turn the property over to DPR so that they can renovate the school and the grounds.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And this is linked in our agenda. So hopefully the commissioners have all had an opportunity to read it. Any members of the public have questions, if you could type your question in the Q&A box or use the raise hand feature. I am taking a look at that now and I don't see any hands up. Okay, giving people just a moment here to catch up. All right, and I'm not seeing anything. So Commissioner Rhodes, if you want to make a motion.
Yes, I make a motion that we adopt the amended version of the renovation of Carmel School. So I move that we adopt it.
And
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain. And just as a reminder, because of my day job, I am ethically conflicted from considering or voting on matters of planning and land use. So I have to abstain here.
Thank you for that reminder. We're sorry you're conflicted out, but thanks. Next up on our agenda, this is PUD feedback for case 2221. I don't see anyone on the line right now, but if you're in the audience and you can raise your hand. Okay, I do see. Change role to panelist. Okay, so I do see we have some panelists coming up. Okay. All right. Okay, and do you need to share your screen?
Yes, I'll share my screen. Thank you, Chair Moore.
Sure. Let's make you the co-host so you can share. All right, and whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Megan Hoddlecox with Goulston & Storrs Land Use Council for the applicant. We presented to the ANC in February of this year before we filed. So we just have a very brief kind of update and reminder presentation because we know that we'd really like to take the bulk of this time to, hear the comments from the ANC and understand this will help us when you all kind of put together the formal feedback and we can kind of talk through where we are in the process as well. So just as a brief overview, hopefully you all can see my screen and presentation.
Yes.
Great. So as a reminder, this property is 2225 to 2229 M Street Northeast. And we are, there we go. So the development team consists of Outlier and Goodwin companies that are going to be developing this property with Housing Up, which is a nonprofit affordable housing provider. And the overall development plan for the project is going to be to create an all affordable senior housing project that will provide 120 affordable units through a planned unit development and a map amendment to the RA4 zone. This is kind of the overall plan and largely focusing on the units that will be provided as well as some of the amenities for tenants. And I will turn it over to Megan with Outlier, Megan Leahy with Outlier, to walk through some of the plans. And then at the end, I'll kind of talk through where we are in the PUD process before we answer any questions and get the feedback from the ANC that we're eager to hear.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And thank you, Megan. Thank you, commissioners and local community here tonight. My name is also Megan, but Megan Leahy. I am the Director of Development for Outlier Realty Capital. I'm here tonight to walk you through the design of this project. I believe the last time we met here together, the project had not been to this level of design. So we're excited to present where we're at and of course, welcome any feedback tonight. The next few slides are renderings of the pedestrian experience off of M Street. And what we're trying to highlight here is our landscaped building entry. This also shows how the building sits in the landscape and takes advantage of the amazing views of the Arboretum. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. This is our proposed material board. We're trying to utilize a neutral tone here with pops of color to accentuate the unique architectural elements of the building. What you see here is that red that highlights the corner, and then we're also going with a dark window, which sort of pops that window. The next slide. Thank you. This is our, this slide shows our first floor plan with resident amenities and residential units. The building overall features a community room, a fitness center, we're entertaining a movie room, a bike room with a repair station, mail and package rooms, tenant storage for our residents, and a rooftop area. This rooftop area will have a common amenity space as well as just a garden and an outdoor kitchen, which residents can utilize and also take in beautiful sunsets and overlooking the Arboretum as well. We're also proposing here some shared parking and solar panels. As I mentioned before, we have a landscaped entry off of M, and we're looking at Wi-Fi amenities throughout. Next slide, thank you. So this slide shows our second floor plan, just highlighting here that the loading dock is off and the secondary entrance is off of the back alley. Next slide. So this slide shows our typical floor plans for floors 3 through 8. Our units will feature in-unit laundry, in-unit individual temperature control, utilizing Energy Star appliances, energy efficient lighting. We're going for modern finishes within reach, of course, and smart home features, which I think would help the resident experience as well. Next slide. Before I turn it back over to Megan, just want to highlight here, like to review the community benefits of the projects, some of which we heard as direct feedback during our outreach efforts. So let me just walk you through those. This project is benefiting the district, first and foremost, through affordable housing for an underserved population, as well as benefiting the surrounding neighborhood through a significant increase in affordable housing, specifically for senior citizens. This building is also going through Green Communities Plus. We've designed it to achieve the 2020 Green Communities Plus designation. This new plus level of certification recognizes a significant achievement for projects that have invested in deep levels of energy efficiencies. As I mentioned before, we would like all appliances to be energy efficient. And solar panels utilize this as well. So we're proposing solar panels on this building to harvest energy on site. We'll also work in close partnership with local municipalities to correct any existing stormwater overflow. We heard that there's some flooding on M Street, and we're hoping that our building will help mitigate some of that by right sizing and just maintaining the future system. And just this piece of feedback we did hear, we heard a few times here, the neighborhood oversight. We're hoping that the implementation of this building will provide additional oversight to the surrounding areas by closely monitoring and discouraging any future pollution or dumping in the neighborhood. So I want to thank you again for your time tonight, and I'll turn it back over to Megan to take us out.
Thanks, Megan. So just really quickly to wrap up, just in terms of where we are in the process, we filed the application in May. We have not been set down by the Zoning Commission yet, so we're expecting to have set down sometime in the next 6 weeks or so, so likely while the ANC is on the summer break. And then we'll be taking the feedback that we get from the Zoning Commission and the Office of Planning, as well as from you all from the meeting tonight, and moving toward hopefully filing a pre-hearing submission in the fall, addressing the comments and feedback that we've heard. So with that, as I said, we're happy to take questions, but then also happy to just listen, and greatly appreciate you all taking the time to give us this formal feedback.
Thank you for that. And just a reminder to folks, if you have a question or comment, please use the Q&A feature for your questions or comments as members of the public, or the raise hand feature. First up, we're going to go to commissioners, and then we'll move to members of the public. And actually, I think we've had a little bit of back and forth with the redistricting. So this will end up being in Commissioner Blacknell's area. They did have the final vote on redistricting this past week. And that's where we landed with things. So any comment from you, Commissioner Blacknell?
Yes, I just have one comment. I think I had missed the one ANC meeting. Commissioner Moy, I think you had brought up about the cameras, having cameras down there.
I did bring that up.
Yeah. Yes, I have a concern about that, because even though, you know, it's back behind the Arboretum and it's supposed to be, you know, for the senior citizens and everything, I would like to have for you all to put some cameras up there, you know, so it can be monitored, and it's still illegal dumping going on back there. And when it rains, we do have flooding and everything. So my main concern is to make sure, you know, that is well secured for the senior citizens.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So I think that's that really echoes some of the community feedback that I've seen. I think overall it's it's a welcome addition to the community. In a lot of ways, I think my primary concern always with PUDs is that I think a lot of times the way developers think about CBAs, which is the community benefits agreements, and the way we as ANC commissioners is a little bit different. You know, I think I like to see a lot of specifics in terms of specific benefits to the immediate surrounding area and neighbors. So I'm looking for things like Commissioner Blacknell mentioned in terms of the environmental cameras that would help with some of the illegal dumping concerns, not currently necessarily at the site, but across from the site. I think that that would be a major benefit to the community overall to help address that issue. I do also have water runoff concerns that Commissioner Blacknell mentioned. And I have those concerns not only after construction, but during construction, because we do find oftentimes that when there are constructions in somewhat tight spaces, you know, like this, you know, not necessarily the smallest space, but very close to already established development, that there can be substantial water runoff issues, especially at a site where we know that that's already a problem. And so any thing that we can put in place to try to protect those properties, I think is useful. And the scaling for the adjacent properties on the M Street side has been a consistent thing that we've brought up. And I didn't see that addressed, you know, in the plans. I think we've had a lot of success if you look at 1701H as one of our recent PUDs in the area, and sort of using the stair step idea to step down the height on the side where there are already established properties that, due to zoning rules and how PUDs work, will never be able to meet the height of what you're constructing. And so to, you know, stair step down the height on that side so that there's not such a huge visual difference between the established residences on that block and what we would see. I think we'll probably also have some just additional kind of comments and concerns in terms of transit, especially considering that those are seniors in that location and that Arboretum entrance will be reopening soon from the community, but we'll work to get that written out and get that back to you ahead of your sit down. Okay, I'm not seeing anything from the public. Any other commissioners? Okay, so I think that was the short version and I covered it. I do see, okay, Carl Rollins, your hand is raised. Let me go back to that screen. All right, and you can unmute yourself at any time, Ms. Rollins.
Thank you, and can you hear me all?
Yes, we can.
So I do want to say thank you to Marcus. I'm on the condo board of the adjacent property, and Marcus did reach out to us. And I think that, you know, I looked through the application, and the one thing I'm still concerned about, and I certainly expressed at the last meeting, is the parking issue. By comparison, Delta Towers has 48 spots for 170 units. There's 120 units with 11 spots. Again, with that gate, M Street gate, hopefully opening to the Arboretum, that's putting parking pressure here. You know, just this evening coming home, I was on the X8 and I was commiserating with some other women about how inconsistent the service is to this neighborhood. And I understand that that is not a parcel that is well situated for parking and underground parking at that. But, you know, there's a line in the application that just says, oh, well, they're over the age of 55. They don't use as many cars. The statistics for Carver Langston are that somewhere between 50 and 75% of households have at least one car. That's 60 cars attached to that facility. And there needs to be an answer to that, because I'm having a hard time understanding how that will be addressed. And it's not enough to just say, oh, they're over 55, there's no cars. And I just don't think that's a satisfactory answer. I am concerned about height. I'm also concerned about construction staging as an adjacent.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your second concern. If you could say that again, I'm taking notes. The height issue, okay. Thank you.
And, you know, the height ties into, I was curious about what outreach has been done with Arboretum and Friends of the Arboretum. I mean, obviously this impacts our direct community, but there, you know, people go to the Arboretum to have sort of a like bucolic forest feel And this is a building that looks like it should be on H Street. And so there's that concern. And then the last one is with the dumping. I appreciate the cameras. I've been, you know, my husband and I go and do street cleanups along that stretch every once in a while. I will say that there are a bunch of tires that have been deposited in the back of 2229 M Street. I've reported them to 311, but I would just ask that while this is going forward, because we've also had to call the fire department for fire alarms going off in the buildings, is that we just want you guys to like not treat these like abandoned buildings, because like our home is next door. And, you know, we're picking up the slack as your neighbors, making sure that these properties that have been abandoned for a while or left alone are functioning appropriately.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate your comments about the parking, because I do think that that's part of the transportation concern, is the inconsistency of that bus route and kind of the over-reliance, I think, in the PUD of there being accessible transportation nearby when we know that that bus route has consistent issues.
Yeah, and to just one more thing, because that's one of those things is that, you know, I'm in my 30s, and that it's a weird place. It is uphill in every direction. And so for the 55 plus community, that is not a difficult walk, or that is a difficult walk. It's not an easy walk to even access grocery stores that are less than a mile away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, and let me take a look here to see if we have anyone else on the line. I don't see anyone else on the line with their hand raised, and I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So what we'll do is we'll kind of formalize the feedback that I know we've gotten so far from the community and the thoughts and concerns raised by commissioners, so that you have a letter from us. And we'll do our best to get that to you prior to your sit down hearing, which I think is later this month.
Okay. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and then next up, our final agenda item. Thank you guys for hanging on. I know we're a little bit behind schedule. Summer grant requests. So we have on the line with us Ms. Thelma Duran. And okay, great.
Go Bass, Miss Lord, whatever you're gonna do.
Oh no, I think we've lost your video. Okay, all right, now we can see you again. But we have two grant requests, one for workforce development greens and grounds, which we did do last summer, and then summer camp and back to school supplies. Workforce development at $7,570 estimated in the budget submitted, and summer camp and back to school supplies estimated at $16,450. If you could very briefly for us describe the workforce development program first and what that does, and then we'll come back for a discussion on the summer camp. You're on mute. And I'll just comment while you're getting off mute, Ms. Duran, you're on mute. We can't hear you, but the Greens and Grounds program was a successfully completed and audited grant last year. So they're back reusing some of those resources and coming in at a much nicer dollar amount.
Mm-hmm. Yes, my name is Thelma Duran, and I manage the Carver Terrace Community Center, the Patsy Hartfield, located at 21st and Lemon Avenue. So I had a vision because some of the gentlemen in the neighborhood were just standing around. And I said, in order for us to move them, we need to be able to give them some type of training. So that's how entrepreneurship came into mind. And I thought about, we had a person out here that was actually doing a horticultural thing. So I asked him, well, what if we could do this together? So in turn, that's when the workforce development came through. And what happened is you fund us last year. We had 5 people on staff, and it actually made a difference because now we got people thinking about doing other things besides standing around. So what we would like to do is continue the program, because what it did was it helped people that were caught up in the pandemic. It helped youth that were standing around. They were doing business, but they need to do a business where they can move forward with their lives doing great things. So what we did was we had youth that came up and we serviced the Carver, Langston, and Ivy City areas. That means we went around, cut grass, trimmed trees, right there by the Aldi's, that little triangle that runs to Neal Street and down Maryland Avenue. I sent pictures. We cleaned all that up. Homes that were sitting where nobody's living there that were abandoned. That means we cut those grass to keep the community looking great. We found that what happens is when those guys are standing around, at certain nights, they make a whole lot of trash. But if you have a guy that is a part of the program, what happens is he says, we're trying to keep the neighborhood better. We're trying to improve it. And people like coming out and seeing that their community is looking better. And it's coming from the inside, where we're training people to get them ready to go out and start their own businesses. So last year, y'all provided us with the tools, the equipment and everything. We kept all of that. And this year, we would like to be able to move forward into the next phase. And then that next phase is all where we've been taking information back from the first time and looked at it. And then we said, well, okay, well, this time we're going to actually give them some more training. We're also going to help them try to find a job. We've also been reaching out to some of the places that's in the area and see if we can do their places so that they get, the more experience they get, the better it'll be. So that's where we are right now. It's been a pleasure to be able to do this. And I tell you, to have guys that really need something to hold on to be able to move forward. It's stated that we suffer because of the lack of knowledge. So if that's the case, we need to start reprogramming people and helping them to get to the next level. This right here with our community center had been closed down since the pandemic. This was like a breath of fresh air because we not only got to work in the field, but they actually got to come into the community center and actually hash over what they did that day. They learned each tool, what it's for, how to put plants in the ground, went to the different nurseries. It was really an explosion. It was an experience. And every day when I came out to greet them, they were always on time, which showed punctuality. They were, you know, we had two gentlemen that spoke only Spanish. Before the program ended, they were communicating, working together with no problems. So the program was a great success, a great success.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for that. Before we'll deal with each one, before we go to the public, you know the drill, Q&A box, please use it, raise hand feature. But before we go to the public, let's hear any comments or questions from the commissioners.
Yes.
Sorry, okay. Go ahead.
It's great what you're doing in the community, and I applaud you for doing that with the fellas in the neighborhood. So if you know, for this year, will you get the same guys that were working with you? How have they furthered their skills, and will they be mentoring new guys that you would be getting this year?
Well, last year we had one lady that lost her job due to the COVID. She in turn is now working over at the MGM, and she's working to help with whatever is needed on grounds. So she has moved on, but the first thing when she called, she said, am I going to be able to come back into the program? Because I want to be sharp. So we had 3 that has already come back and said, I want to continue with this, you know, and so I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Cobb.
Yeah. First of all, these are both really exciting projects. I remember when we gave you all the Greens and Grounds grant last year.
Yes.
It was really exciting to be able to help fund that.
Yes.
I just have to think as treasurer, put on my treasurer hat and look at these and funding. If we funded both, that would be over half our remaining budget. And so that kind of just gives me pause. I think we could fund one. As far as which one, I'm open to hearing feedback on that from anyone who might have any thoughts.
Just a quick question: what are we using the remaining budget for? What we have left over? Because you said we're using over half the budget to give them the grants. What are we using the remaining balance for? What that would be an issue?
Yeah, that part, because we've been very conservative with our funds.
I have a comment here, but Commissioner Cobb, you go ahead.
Well, our balance is actually 60% lower than it was when our term started at the beginning of 2020. So we do have a lot of funds, but we spent a lot of funds. And I think we've spent those funds really well. I just want to make sure that we keep doing it. You know, we might have grants in the future that we could use. We always have recurring office expenses and there are issues like that. So that's just what I'm thinking on my mind, in my treasurer hat. In my ANC hat, I love both of these projects.
Yes, thank you.
And the only additional comment I had is regarding our staff, and that we have to have a certain amount of reserve for staff, and we don't get our next allotment until fall. So we have to, so how it works for us in order to get money coming in is that we have to have all of our ducks in a row from our previous submissions. That gets audited. They almost always come back with some little thing. They want you to move this around or that or whatever. And then you have to come back and say, okay, now it's time for us to actually get our funding. And so it's like, we also have to think about making sure that we have the money available to pay staff, especially we're going into a summer recess, so then we're gone for 2 months. So that's why I raised that.
I just have one follow-up to that. So I know that you said that we got our funding at the beginning of 2020. Is it not annual funding, or is it semi-annual funding? How are we getting our funding?
It's quarterly, and it's based on whether you pass the previous audits. So then we had an issue coming in from the previous commission where we had to go back and redo some of their paperwork. And I don't know if a lot of people remember this, like when we first came in, this discussion like January of last year, but we had to go back and redo a lot of the paperwork that was submitted. And we ended up having to, I think for the mural and some other things, had that taken out of our future budget, even though that was something from the previous commission, just because we ended up having to go back and redo that paperwork. And the auditor will tell you, they're super strict, and we get those audits every single quarter. And so that reduced some of our funding as well. And then we have our lawyers that we pay. They're still going to be working on zoning things over the summer, even while we're on recess. And so we do have to have the funds available to pay those people because they are doing the work on time. So that I do kind of agree with that concern. But, I do really like both of these programs, and I want to be as generous as possible, but I do want to make sure that people are well informed. And I think the other thing is, now that redistricting is over, here's what else we know. We're staying together as an ANC. So we know that as of last week, and that's been kind of a hanging concern in the background in terms of our funding, because then how is the funding split up if we get split up as an ANC? But then now we do know that we're not getting split up. So that is some good news. So we don't lose any parts of the funding that we do already have. But we just want to be aware, because it's not, we do our best, but there's audits, it takes time, and there's delays in our funding, but we still have to be able to pay the staff in the interim.
And I don't want to cut you off, Commissioner Moore, but I was on the ANC commissioner at the time. Sadell is talking about our quarterly reports was not turned in on time, so we lost money. When them quarterly reports are not turned in time, on time, and in the correct time, they take money out of our allotment. And we lost, 5D lost a lot of money because half of the time the quarterly reports were not done on time.
Yeah.
Like I said, our last past treasurers before you all new commissioners came board and me and Sadell Moore were still commissioners, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So 5D lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
When I say a lot, I mean a lot.
And we still had to go back and do all of those reports and go through the auditor with all of those things. So we're just trying to keep an awareness of that because there was just there was months of work that went into that. Stephen and I, Commissioner Cobb and I behind the scenes, it was just a lot. We were seeing each other too much. Lovely to see you always, but it was too much. But just putting that note in the background because I know that there has been a lot of conversation, to the good and the bad. But the good news is we're not being split up, so we know that all of our money is our money. So that's a plus. Right. But back to the discussion at hand. Anything else from commissioners? Okay. All right. So I do see one question from a member of the public, Skip Keats. Could the ANC try to help fundraise for Ms. Duran's programs? Could developers in the area help? And the answers are yes. I'm happy to support fundraising efforts. We've definitely done that in the past, where, we've said, this is what we have available, but are people in the community willing to donate? And we have been able to fund things that way as well. So that's a good question and a good thing to put out there. What I will say is in terms of, do we want to have a conversation about summer camp and consider these both together? I think that's probably for the best. Okay, so let's go ahead and if you'll run through what the summer camp is briefly, and then we can have some more discussion.
Okay, the summer camp program is based on 30 children from the ages of 5 to 13. We're not doing as many, even though we have the space for it, because we still are trying to keep everybody safe. What happens is we have a computer lab that we don't have the computers. We have a kitchen now. So we wanted to do healthy eating. The kids have been in-house, now they need to come out. But the thing is, with our curriculum, it's going to be fun teaching. That's why we'll have the STEM program. We'll be getting them lured outside instead of inside on the computers and the phones. We're really going to be trying to get them in shape. And that's the reason why I had a professional trainer that will be coming, as well as a professional dancer. Her name is Tammy Taylor. She's a part of the youth in DC, going to court with them as a correctional officer. So she actually knows how to interact with the kids, and for us to be able to clean up things, get them to open up, as well as Officer Hakeem Tate. He comes out, he actually does little grants to try to help us also. And he said that with us doing the back to school, we would have the backpacks already. They could donate music. So with that budget, I really tried to cut it down. The hardest part is having staff. And what happens is we incorporated 6 summer youth workers. But the summer youth workers are here as well as to get the experience of working with the youth. So they have to have a lead person over top of them. And that way, it's always somebody watching to keep everything safe. We shut the building down while camp is going on. No one can go to the top levels. So with them now understanding, because a lot of us have gained weight, me too, being inside with virtual, you need to be understanding that food and how it works and what we need to do to get it off, and in a healthy way. So that means that we start with the children, and we can hear them laughing outside once again, and they're now getting off that computer and doing a little bit of computer, because we put it in because we wanted it to be a learning experience and keeping them busy, that they can research. Like if we went on a trip, they need to research it first so that they'll understand what is going on. I just know that with us partnering with the Department of Education in regards to Parks and Recreation, the summer meals, see, we'll be getting them fed, we'll get them early in the morning and have them pretty much so all day. Then that's going to cause our community center to open up more, and we'll be interacting more with the kids. I've been here forever, so I know a lot of them, and they are excited. Now I'm getting the youth workers that used to be here, I'm getting their children now. So what we're trying to do is make sure that everybody is interacting as well as learning. We're going to do 1 point on cursive writing. When I found out that cursive writing is not in the schools anymore, I said, you know, we need to focus in on the reading, the writing. We'll do the journals. So everything will be fun as a learning experience, but they'll come away empowered with greater things to think about, as well as, you know, being taught how to move forward. Because that next school year, with all this virtual stuff, we really need some hands-on, and we need those people that's out here willing to work with the youth to try to get them focused so that they can grow up to be productive to society. That's the main thing, for them to be thinking. STEM program, engineering is going to help them to grow and want to do greater things. You know, and so that's why our curriculum was structured like that. Fitness, healthy in mind, healthy in body. It's going to be a good program. And I do appreciate it. And that's why this time I actually tried cutting that program down as much as possible with our greens and grounds. Like not to get the t-shirts with the logos on it, cut that down. But I do understand what you're saying. It's a hard decision to make, because you know this is what we need, but at the end of the day too, we need the ANC to stay in place, because y'all been doing an amazing job. We did the food program. I mean, amazing. You know, we've gotten some speed bumps, our streets done over, the water problem going down Maryland Avenue. It's great things going on. So, you know, you want to have the people with the right mindset of moving forward. And that's what summer camp would do. It will have them out, make the kids take more pride in where they live.
All right, well, thank you for that. Do we have any more comments or questions from commissioners now, having heard about what both programs are? Okay. So I have a comment, and I think we can help is, I think, it would make a lot of sense for us to try to find a way to fund both programs, at least partially. I think the $7,500 for greens and grounds, we can swing that easily. I think that's definitely doable.
I appreciate it.
And, that, definitely makes sense, and we can do that. I think if we broke down the budget for camp, and what you're saying sounds like, you're getting a lot of community support from other places, and that the key area for you is really funding around the staff, because the staff you're getting from the city has to have supervisors in order to get that staff. Maybe that's the key area where we can help to ensure that, the basis for the program is there, And then we could work to get together to get, you know, like the supplies, the sports equipment, the arts and crafts supplies from a variety of other sources too. And do some partnerships there, either fundraising in the community. I think those are easier things for people to contribute to than say, oh, you know, here's your donation for your staff. You kind of have to have that in place to make the program work at all. And be able to take advantage of getting the additional staff from the city. So that sounds to me like something where that's putting us at just under about 15,000, or actually at about 17,000, because then there's the camp director. So I think that that's potentially doable, because we're right at 46 now. I know of the zoning cases I'm kind of thinking about over the summer. It is the PUD, which shouldn't require too much in hours from staff, and, you know, our Verizon bill, that kind of thing going on. We have some outstanding office costs that are less than about $2,000. And I'm trying to think of anything else.
Do we have any outstanding APRA protests?
No, not from my area. Do any of the other commissioners have outstanding APRA protests? So no.
No.
Okay. So I think those are the main areas of expense. You know, outside of just our kind of ongoing office expenses that I know we still need to address, and staff costs on the zoning stuff.
Well, and the way I see it, you know, we've been good about our quarterly reports this term, so we should at least get a new allotment in the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah, if not sooner.
Yeah, and I'm kind of counting on that too. I think that that's probably right. You know, we come out of our audit squeaky clean, I'll say.
Yes.
Mr. Cobb and myself, you know, we've been on time and done a good job, and we'll continue that.
I think it's worth it. It's worth it. It's for the kids. It's for the community, and it's teaching a lot of youth some positive things that they can carry into life. So it's well worth it.
What then if we got to do some fundraisers?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
the church did a fish fry. They tried to do a fish fry, and you know, that was supposed to help. They say they're going to try and do something. So we have been doing little fundraisers.
Well, we'll work together on that and start publicizing some of these things. And then people can come and drop off things like art supplies that I saw in the budget, you know, sports equipment that I know people have. I know I got some stuff in my garage that I'm not about to be playing tennis. So y'all, you know, that's for you. But I'll just say that. So I think that puts us at $17,170 for both. And that's fully funding the greens and grounds and funding the camp director and staff position for the summer camp. And I'll just see, I'll say this, because you know, we're trying our best to kind of spend our money in a good way, and we do want to fund projects like this. I think why it's important for me in the community is that, you know, this has a dual benefit in my mind for the community, in that, yes, it benefits the people who are directly participating in those projects, but it's like we see what happens when youth have too much idle time. And what we saw in many other parts of the city where people weren't doing programming like this over COVID is that they had a big spikes in terms of youth crime and vandalism and violence. And what we did not see in our area were those kinds of huge spikes. And I do think that a lot of it was related to the fact that we, in a variety of ways, you know, did the best that we could to try to get programs and resources over here as soon as we kind of saw things going in that direction when COVID started, so that we didn't let people get used to that idle time. You know, my mom always said, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And, you know, I think finding something for folks to do that's positive has really contributed to us being able to maintain some of the gains we've made over recent years in terms of fighting some of the crime issues, while I think other parts of the city are really having some very, very serious challenges. I mean, even kids doing carjackings. Can't see over the steering wheel and you're doing a carjacking. You know, I've seen videos like that. And so I was glad to not see things get to that point in our community. And so I think that's part of my reasoning for why it's so important to have these kinds of things for the community as a whole. It's not just about the individuals participating. It helps keep us all safer.
Yeah. And we the only ones that can do stuff like that, Ms. Thelma. We have to be proactive and do it in our community. We can't wait on nobody else. That's right. That's right.
All right. So any other discussion or comments or questions from the commission as a whole? Okay, I do see we have a question in the Q&A box. Josh Kramer comment. It's great to see the ANC spending so much of its budget on a worthwhile project. Well, thank you for that. Okay, and then let's see if we have anybody with a raised hand. Okay, I don't see any raised hands. Okay, so we are ready to vote. All in favor of funding, fully funding the Greens and Grounds project and funding the staff portion of the budget for the summer camp project at a grand total of $17,170. Please say aye. I'm sorry, can I get a second first?
I'll second that for you.
Okay, Commissioner Saucedo Guzman. Now, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all right, so the ayes have it, and we'll move forward with that, and we'll work with you on kind of all the tracking and things for that, because we want to continue to stay squeaky clean.
Yes.
Yes. And you have kept all your receipts in the past, so we're happy to work with you again. Okay, all right, well, thank you so much. That is our last agenda item. We do have to lose our interpreter in just a minute here, so if there aren't any major community feedback or questions, if you want to just reach out directly to your commissioners, you can do that. If you do have items that you want to address that were not on tonight's agenda, but you have a comment or question that you don't want to hold for a quick email to your commissioner, you can take that time now. And I'll give people a moment if you want to type your question or you want to raise your hand. I am taking a look at both screens, and I'll give people just a moment here. But if not, we will adjourn. Okay, Benjamin Daly, you can unmute yourself and share any question or comment.
Yes, I'm just quickly want to say thank you very much for all the work that you do. I'm with Bike to the Beach for Autism and Disabilities. We're hosting a charity ride on July 29th as leaving from Union Market. I just want to let everybody know that we're going to be doing this event. I'm working closely with Commissioner Rhodes to make sure that all the community needs are addressed. One of our particular things we're looking to work with her on is getting some police presence during our early morning start of our event. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please, you can reach out to me directly at ben@biketothebeach.org, or obviously talk directly with Commissioner Rhodes. Given this short, I respect everybody's time. Thank you very much for everything.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, and I'm not seeing anyone else. So with that, I move to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right. And I didn't hear anyone opposed. So good night, everyone. We'll
Good
see
night.
you again in September.
So much.
Y'all be safe.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
And a special thanks to you, Miss Kelderman. I appreciate you staying late.